Hello and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today and you're joining us for the first episode of our 5th season of Awkward Sibling Hour. And we're going to start it off by talking about this thing that we think is so important and people have a lot of confusion, I think, about, or at least some people do. But we think it's so important. We wanted to kind of clarify and also maybe point out, hey, meditation. You're probably already doing it, especially if you're watching this show. You are probably already doing it, maybe not necessarily realizing it, but perhaps being more consciously aware of your meditative practice may help you reinforce the goodness that you are doing for yourself. So without further ado, let me go ahead and show you who is joining us today. There is the wonderful, the fantastic Charlie.
Oh, wow. Those are words.
Real words. And I said them about you. And then how could we possibly talk about meditation and art as meditation and meditation as art if we did not also have on panel today the wonderful Laura? Woohoo! True. Our amazingly talented artist in residence among artists. And then you know him. I love him. He's our technical producer and my brother. It's Tom. And he even put clothes on today. So we're all thrilled.
Yeah.
I mean, the lock screen on my phone is still a picture that Laura did. So.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. So, yeah, here we are today. This is today. If anybody, of course, as always, wants to mention their weather, that's cool. I mean, you don't have to. I just like it.
It's gray.
It's gray. It is. It looks
Very
like
gray.
a lovely day outside here. Of course, it's already quite warm outside here.
We're expecting a cold weekend, which I don't know what they mean because they want all temperatures.
Because, like, it's June.
So
This is the one time of the year where I, frankly, have fantasies about being in Southern California because I have heard tell about June gloom. And I'm like, that is for me. It's always overcast. Oh, wait, you mean I don't burn? Yay! Let's see. Right now it is 87 degrees outside and 1 mile an hour winds and 64% humidity. So there is no hair that is safe.
Ooh,
And
it's
tomorrow's
71.
high is supposed to be 94 degrees. So, yeah. Hello, Eva. Hello, Kat. Kat says, hey, I just got home, had my appointment, and Mom took me grocery shopping. Legs are tired, joints hurt. Well, what a wonderful way to just hang out and chill out. Eva says, it's raining here, been gloomy and gray all day. Light rain, off and on, 72 degrees.
So I don't know why the weather app has decided to be so specific, but it's 71 degrees with showers that will be stopping in approximately 39 minutes.
I
Approximately.
mean, that is strangely specific, I agree.
Like, is that give or take a minute or give or take an hour?
Yeah, like, what? Okay, sure.
That's what it says.
But then again, for those of us who are a bit older, I remember when for some reason the American weather forecast system at least changed from like the percentage chance we will have rain to what percentage of the area will get rain.
Yes.
And it became very confusing of like 90% rain didn't mean a 90% chance. It meant 90% of the area will be rained on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hello, Carrie. Carrie is here, and so is Spence. Hello. Eva says, 18 minutes, the rain will stop here. It's very much Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It really has that vibe today. Waiting for my durable tie.
Or just, where was it that has, the joke of, I guess just when you're in the tropics, it's Florida, when you're visiting Disney World. If you don't like the weather, give it an hour, it'll change.
Give it a minute, it'll change, yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes. Like, do we need the ponchos? Not anymore.
We will.
Right. Hey, Megan, how are you? Just woke up from a nap. I hope it was a good nap.
Minerva tried so hard to get me to nap like right before the show started. She
Mm-hmm.
curled up right on my chest and started purring so wonderfully relaxingly. Just yes. No, I agreed to be here. Go away, kitty. Go away.
She tried. At least she
She
gave it
tried.
some effort, you know?
She's sitting in the chair across from me looking at me sadly right now.
Oh, poor
I did not
kitty.
join her in nappy time.
She
How
was all
dare.
set.
That reminds me, I didn't post that one little video under cats.
Carrie says 83 degrees sunny, and there have been pollen warnings for the past couple days, and all of the cottonwood fluff. We've all been
Oh.
sneezy. Oh, dear. Let's see. Ate a banana. Oh, dear. Skipped a meal. Everybody just saying hi in the chat. Megan says it's sort of relaxing. 64 degrees out and pretty blue outside. Oh, very lovely. I said, I have heard all sorts of stories about people talking about, yeah, June gloom. I got to leave California in June. I'm like, that is when I need to go and, like, you know, exchange your rental. That's when I need to go in California.
That's what I miss about living in the Bay is you knew exactly when it was going to rain because it was February.
Mm.
It rained like almost every day, all month in February. And then it was just like beautiful and in the 70s like every other day.
I remember
I mean, that's what I
when
liked
Tom
about
and
the
I,
Philippines.
yeah, when Tom and I were in the San Francisco Bay Area for New Year's and driving through, like, we were trying to get to, what is it? The San Joaquin Valley. We were trying to get to the Winchester House at one point. And driving through rain, and it was like that. It kept the website kept saying that it wasn't raining at Winchester, and yet here we were driving through it, and I'm like, how does this work? How does this work? And then, oh, that is how it works. It's just like these little bands.
Yep.
It was so nice there that I could smell the ozone air. I was like, oh, I smell the trees, Tom. Just this one part of the valley as we were driving through.
I'll never forget the one time it flurried out there and people were like, blizzards! No! Like the panic was real.
300 and some accidents.
Yeah, 300 and some accidents in like a 48-hour period.
No, that was,
Goodness.
Oh, that was just that morning?
that was just that morning. They
Oh,
hadn't even
crap.
gotten to, like, drive time traffic.
Truly, people don't know when to stay off the road. Spencer, I did not get a nap today, but I got to stay in bed all I wanted this morning. That sounds wonderful.
Nice.
Is that because the pizza demon is not in school right now? So some parents rejoice, some parents mourn. Eva says should be drafting while here, so in and out. Carrie says what the forecast says the sun is 93 million miles away, except today. Today it feels uncomfortably close. And
Well, you know,
Megan is
sometimes
having
it's gotta
great
check on us. Make sure we're still behaving.
Still behaving. So, meditation. Tom, do you want to make your pitch?
So if you are neurodivergent, first off, meditation is your best friend because meditation is about self-discipline. It is about being able to control what your mind's thinking about instead of your mind controlling what you think about. And the part I think most people don't realize is there's a lot of different kinds of meditation, and most times you have a technique for self-soothing. That's meditation. When people talk about flow state, that's meditation. That is where you are no longer having your mind bring up emotional states, trying to get an emotional reaction out of you. Instead, you are simply in the moment doing your choice of activity. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring up today of meditation is not really spiritual. It is about simply growing up and maturing. And that is why everyone needs to know how to meditate.
It's one of the few strange places where English is devoid of vocabulary.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, we all need a bit more discipline, especially now, as Glory was bringing up earlier, of how the main product in today's post-capitalist society is, how did you put it?
Well, the product is your emotional reaction. You're the product, and your emotional reaction is specifically what everybody's trying to do. Or what we used to say when I was a kid was they're trying to get a rise out of you. And that is what companies are profiting off of, is getting a rise out of you.
Yep.
However, meditation practice means that you have more control over the state of your thoughts. That you essentially have a way, you've learned one or more ways to switch your train of thought from, say, for instance, a highly emotional state, or I think what they actually call it is what is it? It's not an antagonism, but this emotionally energized or activated state to whatever state you want. So, including the just turning off the television, turning off the news, and instead doing something meditative to change your state of mind because you don't like the state of mind you're currently in.
Also, it's not of any benefit to you right then. They're trying to get a rise, but are they giving you a good action to do with that energy, that emotional energy, or are they just trying to get that rise so that you will then, purchase their particular product or go with them instead of thinking about it? But yeah, I thought going, is a point of it's not just you're the product, your emotional reaction is the product. And meditation is how you get to control whether or not they're successful. Because, growing up, no one liked being controlled by your parents. And, we're adults. It doesn't mean others aren't trying to control you through your emotions either. Yeah, meditation is a lot easier than people think. And it's a lot more useful. So much more useful. Go on.
I was just going to say, before we get started, it's important to remember that meditation can kind of be broken down into three main categories. There are types of meditation that are there to help you process, whether that's thoughts or emotions. There are types of meditation that are there to clear your mind and get you into a place of just still mindfulness where you're not moved one way or the other. And then there's the third kind of meditation, which is designed to specifically evoke an emotional response within you. For example, the compassions meditations that are very popular in Tibetan Buddhism, that are literally designed to get you to feel the emotion that is assigned to compassion, to get you to feel the intention that you're having. And all meditation can kind of be broken down into these three categories. We in the West have really focused on Vipassana, or mindfulness meditation, which is the one that's designed to clear your mind of active thought. And that is very handy. That's something that's very good to do, but it is not the only kind of meditation that's out there. And when you start limiting yourself and limiting your options, you don't have the tool set that you need to actually handle the feelings, the thoughts, the processes that are going on within you. Because meditation really is a tool set.
Yes. And there's a lot of ways we are already meditating that we just don't call meditating, but it has all the functions of it.
So for people like me who suffer from depression and anxiety, we ruminate. And rumination is the dark sister of meditation.
Yes.
Because all you are doing is a contemplative meditation on all of the worst things that either could or are going on right now. And
Perfect time to come in, Jules.
Hello.
And learning to see that for what it is allows you to kind of grab the wheel and turn the rudder back in the direction where you need to go. Because sometimes, yes, you need to vent those dark thoughts out, but just chewing on them and going into, like I said, the 3 kinds of meditation where you're now either cleansing yourself of any happy thoughts, or just evoking that darkness and letting it grow and encouraging it to grow. That once you can see that you're doing that, you can develop techniques to help bring in other thoughts and other energies into your psyche to get you out. But I think it's important to realize that, because a lot of people have experienced rumination, and that's just dark natural meditation.
Or also like hyperfocus.
Yep.
Hyperfocus is another form of meditation. And again, I just wanted to point out how so many of us are naturally capable of meditation or meditative practice. We're just not aware of what we're doing. But awareness will only make this better, because then it's a tool you can wield when you want to, rather than just something you accidentally happen upon from time to time. So hyperfocus is where you are mindful, but you're specifically having one or more thoughts, i.e. the practice you're doing, as the only, thoughts that are you're really focusing on. So, and I do find that people, neurodivergent folks, particularly people with ADHD, and that type, find this helpful to have one or more thoughts, like say an activity, to focus on, to thereby clear out the undesirable thoughts or just the clutter of thoughts. Sometimes we all just need a break from our own brain.
Uh-huh.
It just helps to just clear the table and just hyper focus on an activity, be it something that probably has some repetition or so much familiarity that you can kind of, quote, be on autopilot a little bit. And that gives you the excess brain processing power to then clear the decks of all these other either intrusive thoughts or just unnecessary thoughts or anxious thoughts, in order to just get a break from your own thoughts. Or maybe that's just me. Let me know if anyone else also appreciates. Sometimes hyperfocus is a wonderful way to clear the deck.
I feel like Naropa wrote an entire treatise on that. So did Nagarjuna.
But I remember being very young, 13, and talking about, oh, I'm not good at meditation. And really what I was thinking was the clearing of the thoughts. And to which the person training me was like, what do you mean? I've seen you. When you're focused on something, nobody can break your concentration. They come by, you answer their question, they leave, you're back in there. You're naturally meditative. And she was pointing out, like, people like me, and what she was meaning was, people who have undiagnosed ADHD are naturally quite good at certain kinds of meditation. Your brain's just wired for this, so you're going to fall into it easier than, say, neurotypical people. And I had not thought of it in a positive way. I had only thought of it in all the ways that I was not neurotypical. And all the ways that I was lacking. At least lacking in being socially acceptable. And to be told by somebody who, really had trained in India and was apparently had trained with vaulted people, whatever, something, to find out that she's like, oh no, y'all actually have it easier, in that your brain is already used to certain meditative states. Now we're just going to teach you to wield it rather than to accidentally come upon it. That is what you are lacking, is simply how to wield the tools that your brain already came preset, versus neurotypical people they're not born with these tools. They have to learn from scratch. And I'm like, I never thought of it like a compliment, like a good thing. And she's like, yeah, actually, you're going to be better at this earlier than the neurotypical people. And she was like, now, you don't ever say anything, but watch your classmates in the yoga class and start talking to them afterwards. And you will start noticing in the things they say how they are really struggling to even meditate at all. Versus you're just like, no, but the thoughts, like, yeah, you're meditating. It's just now you wielding the tool on when you want to.
I'd say the modern, for lack of a better way of saying it, the bro code phrase
Mm-hmm.
for modern meditation tactics to obtain meditative state is flow state. When
Mm-hmm.
people talk about they're trying to attain a state of flow or a flow state, and they're using um, electrical stimulation of the brain and all of that is for obtaining meditative sense of mind. That's what they're doing. That's what eventually I figured out after doing enough research and noting what are all the qualities of this. It's what you get through meditation.
And for anybody versed in Buddhism, this is what would be referred to as the first jhana, the first meditative absorption, because, well, they've list between 4 and 32, depending on how you want to dissect how your brain works, and which method you want to break it down. But yeah, that flow state is the first meditative absorption. It is the first jhana that we enter.
So Eva brought up like she meditates every day. Usually for her, it's lying down, and she'll say she napped, though she didn't sleep. Otherwise she's sitting outside alone. Interesting recent research has actually shown that even if you do not sleep, if you are in a meditative state, you actually get about 50% of the health benefits of sleep just by being in a meditative state for that same period of time. Like, it does actually help your brain clear itself up and sort of reset the desktop of your mind.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not entirely wrong to say you're sleeping, even when you're not, technically sleeping.
I also feel like one of the things I want to say early on is one of the reasons we keep referring to trained in India or studied in India or various Indian terms is they discovered what we call psychology about 2,000 years before we did.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
At least.
yeah, when you read the Upanishads, when you read a lot of the literature that came out from this period, it's the stuff that you wouldn't see people in the West talking about until Freud and Jung and, Rollo May and all those who came afterwards. This was something that we came to quite late, and not because it took us so long to get there. It's because we kept going, oh no, that's too easy. Let's throw that out and try something else.
It must be harder to be real, mustn't it?
Yeah, because we got there at about the same time. Zeno was writing in Greece, as were several others, at about the same time, coming up with a lot of the same ideas. They just were not as popular as others because commercialism was the prime driver of most European civilizations for a very long time, whereas in India they were a lot more concerned about like controlling like the floods and controlling like keeping the land management. So it was a very different cultural focus, which allowed for people to have different interests that weren't simply about how do we make the monies.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the reasons there's this fascination with India when it comes to these topics is they've literally been talking about these ideas and really challenging them for thousands of years. When I talk about, Naropa and Arjuna, they were writing in what we would term the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And they were writing stuff that you're now seeing in modern psychological papers that that we are starting to discover over here. They were talking about then. And it's just, it's fascinating to see how much we have to catch up on with some of this stuff.
Yeah. CB mentioned, there's no place for her with someone that's not typically neurodiverse in yoga class. But I'm a square peg. And that is what we'll be talking about in the second hour of non-typical meditative practices that help those that, I guess probably now is a good time, since we were talking about India and studies there. And yes, we have a strong usage of knowledge that India has been working with, just because it's had more time to mature and develop. But one of the things Gloria and I picked up listening to talks by Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist nun from Canada, is one of the things she noticed and realized was, so there's a big difference when it comes to meditative practice between people raised in Eastern societies and Western societies. And what it comes down to is, if you were to say societies were a college, like we all kind of grow up and we learn, capabilities and stuff through our society. In the Eastern societies, they start at a 100 level class. Basics intro to meditation would be. Western, you have to start at a 90 level class, a fundamentals of a just the views and the mindsets are so different. You can't just start with where they start in India. That's
Or just in Asia in general.
In Asia.
'Cause these concepts of meditation have had literally thousands of years to disseminate through all of Asia.
Yeah,
Even the
society there has
islands,
its-
y'all. It's reached there hundreds of years ago. All the children have been raised in these philosophies and concepts. So all of Asia pretty much has these concepts. The West does not, or Western thinking does not raise our children with these very similar philosophies and concepts. So Western thinking is starting somewhere before that. And Eva Choders actually talked about how trying to explain this to her Asian counterparts, and they're like, why do Westerners struggle so much with basic meditation? And she's like, okay, well, see, what it is you're trying to explain something and they're not there yet. They don't understand. They have no concept. You've got to start at like pre-baby idea of meditation. Which again, I want to point out is not like some sort of value character judgment. That's not it. It's just, look, meditation is a skill. It has nothing to do with the quality of your character or, any natural abilities or talents or no. It's just a skill you learn like walking. Once upon a time, none of us knew how to walk. Not a single person. Once upon a time, none of us knew how to crawl. All we knew was how to be and cry and demand things. That's all we knew. Hello.
Okay.
So, it's a skill. And because it's pretty much wrapped into child rearing in Asia, they do not think of it formalized of oh, well, we need to teach the Westerners like we would teach a child. And that's what Pema Chodron's trying to explain of no, this is not part of Western culture. And so they're coming from a place like a little kid would. How would you teach a toddler to meditate? And yes, in Asia, they teach toddlers to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
You're 2.5 now. You're old enough to do this. That's sort of culture. Okay.
But that concentrated look on their face is so adorable.
It's
I
so
want to teach
cute.
a toddler too.
Oh my God! Oh, the little baby faces where they're like, and they don't know what they're doing, but they're trying to imitate. They're so cute. Oh my God.
When Joseph Campbell went to India to talk to the yogis and sat with Ramakrishna and the others, he asked them, he said, why do Westerners have such a hard time understanding what meditation is? And the response that he got was, we don't focus so much on individualism in our cultures. We have as a basic understanding this interconnectedness because we live with our parents and our grandparents and our siblings. We have this idea that we are not alone, that we are all interconnected. And that is so important to the understanding of how your brain works. Your brain is a community. Your brain is not a singular thing. So when we teach our people how to meditate, it takes a small hammer to knock the ego out so that we can talk to everybody else that's there. In the West, we need a much bigger hammer.
Yeah, I mean, look, all toddlers have egos, or they would not survive.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
But they're still so much more open to instruction because they know they don't know what they're doing. They know that they are like dependent on other people to live. So they're more open to whatever you have to tell me, particularly if it will bring a snack in later. I'm here to listen and to practice. I mean, have y'all met 2.5-year-olds? Okay. So anyway,
Give me my orange slices and my fruit snacks.
Truly.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like that's what.
Works.
And so it's one of these of like in Asian cultures, it's very much okay, I'm gonna meditate. You stay in this room, little child, and you meditate with me. Even if you're just copying what I'm doing, you do it. And then afterwards, yes, there'll be snacks, but do not even try to leave this room. Like so. But they're already so open to it. It needs a tiny little hammer to pop out the ego for a moment, versus when you're not raised in that kind of culture. By the time you get to be an adult and now you're trying to learn meditation in the West, yeah, you need a bigger hammer to pop out that little ego for a moment. And yes, y'all, if you are practicing meditation and you need fruit snacks afterwards as a bribe to do this thing that feels unpleasant, go for it. Have your fruit snacks. Get those colored pencils, whatever it takes. But also remember, meditation's not supposed to feel like so uncomfortable that you have to bribe yourself. But it's perfectly fine to have a little snacky snack afterwards.
And this is also why you'll hear in Eastern philosophies about that they talk very positive and like respectful of being in a child mind state.
Mm-hmm.
That you are receptive, you do not have preconceived notions, you're just ready to learn. I mean, there is a huge, like, the problem for adults learning anything is it's been so long since they've had a hard time doing something, they've forgotten what it's like to truly learn from scratch. And so they get easily discouraged because they forget it used to always be like this.
Yes.
It was always hard. It's just recently that you have so many tools, you usually don't encounter anything truly difficult. And so they talk about, no, you want to be in that child state. If you can be in a child state of mind, you will be happier, more cheerful, and more quickly pick up the skills and talents you need.
I just thought it was kind of interesting because I would hear about this. I would read about this in all sorts of writings on meditative practices through my adolescence and my, early to mid 20s, both Eastern and Western ideas of meditative practices. And every time they're talking about the childlike state and they're describing it, and I'm like, that's literally me. I have ADHD. That is like me all the dang time. I barely have a concept of object permanence sometimes. And I am not joking about that. I do mean it as somebody with a degree in psychology where they keep talking about kittens and object permanence or the lack thereof. And I'm like, that's me. I forget the balls behind the couch. I forget exist after a little while. And then I move the couch and I'm like, oh, look at all the treasures back here. But anyway, and unfortunately, I'm this way about people too. Like, honestly, if I'm not in contact with a person at least weekly, I kind of forget they exist until suddenly, like, they message me or something, somebody mentions them, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're friends. I should mention them and see how they're doing. I don't mean to forget people exist. It's just, apparently, I always have the childlike mind state. And I'm like reading all these into my early 20s and going, I am always like this.
And this is
what does this mean about me?
And this childlike state is something that existed in Western thought until it was forcibly removed. You read in the Gospels where Jesus says that you should have them approach these things as a child. This comes out of the Merkaba mysticism that was all around him at that time, where you had to realize you didn't understand when interacting with life is so much bigger than you. The world is so much bigger than you. You have to encounter it like a child and realize there's so much that you don't know. And it was a misinterpretation of a quote from, and he gets blamed for everything because, he deserves it, from Paul, where he said, when I was a child, I did childish things, but when I grew up, I put aside childish things. What he was talking about there had absolutely nothing to do with this topic. He was specifically discussing, I used to go around just preaching the gospel, but there's so much more that we need to talk about. And then he goes on to list Compassion. Why aren't we teaching compassion? Why aren't we teaching discipline? We're not teaching the other things. We're just saying the one thing over and over and over again. But this one phrase got pulled out of context, which always happens
Like
with
everything.
with anybody of any cultural significance. And we now have in our society this idea of stop being so childish. Stop being so childish. Just
Stop acting
grow
like
up.
such a child.
Yeah, why don't you just grow up?
Yes, just grow up already. Why don't you act like a grown up? Why don't you act like an adult? Like,
And these are
I am an adult. I cannot act like something I am, already. I'm not acting like I am an adult. So what are you really trying to say? That I am acting silly or foolish? Or just not super serious like you? Oh God, do y'all remember the 90s where everybody had to be super serious?
yes.
Or else you weren't cool? Spence says one of my friends lost his girlfriend because he went to the Navy and forgot everyone else existed. When he got back, he had to make a round of apologies. Yes.
Maybe also Spence brought up.
Self-reflection and personal fulfillment is beaten out of us as children because it is anti-capitalist to be content with yourself. Oh my God. Let's put it in all caps. I'm going to read it again. Let's all close our eyes and meditate on this for a moment. Absolutely true. Self-reflection and personal fulfillment is beaten out of us as children because it is anti-capitalistic to be content with yourself.
How can a parent, fulfill their child if they can't just purchase something for their child? What if they're, the child just wanting to be near the parent cannot be the payment of fulfillment the child wants? That doesn't make any sense.
No, because you can't make a profit off of that, Tom.
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem.
Versus, we've seen this with pets. Children are the same way. Mostly, what do they want? They just want to be in the same room. They want to be acknowledged. And they want to know they're still there as a concept to the person they love and adore.
I love the little pictures that people post of like their child, their toddler, or their cat needing their own tiny little desk and little laptop to sit next to the adult.
How about a little partial suit too?
Oh God, please put that baby or that cat in a little tie. Okay, thanks. Like, yes, be ready for work. Oh my God, so cute. Oh my God. But yeah, like in the end, what I presume pets, but also I know what children need is to just be near people that make them feel safe and protected and cared for. That's what their brains really need in order to grow. And I think I recently read they now have with imaging figured out that children, particularly younger children, grow 1 million neural connections a day at that age in toddlerhood. And like under the age of 7, 1 million new neural connections every single day when they have everything they need. So, think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've got shelter and food, but we also have protection and emotional safety. So all the hugs they need to feel safe and to feel desired and valued. Children need to feel valued. They're making 1 million new neural connections every single day. Holy cow. So, and all that they need to make those 1 million neural connections is a tiny little desk. No, they don't technically need a little desk and a little laptop, but they need to feel close and to feel that they are viewed in a respectable way. So if that adult, is respecting the laptop, what does the laptop want me to do? Then that's what they want to, because they want to mimic it in order to be on the same level of, yes, this is what we do. We're very important. And also I'm playing with my blocks over here. But yeah, now listen, well, yeah, we as adults, we may not be making a whole 1 million new connections every single day. Instead, in adulthood, what we are doing is we are then instead maintaining the neural connections, because let's be honest, atrophy is a concern. Get me started sometime about Maxwell's demon. But atrophy is a real concern for adult brains. And the way to avoid atrophy is to revisit the neural connections. Interestingly, you don't have to revisit those thoughts to revisit the neural connections. And we don't know how or why exactly, but it turns out meditation or that flow state actually helps renew the vitality of the neural connections in your brain.
Yep.
It's a way for the brain to essentially do some maintenance real quick without you having to specifically revisit all these thoughts that you had as a child that made these neural connections. It's a very fun, easy, and nice, pleasant way to maintain your neural connections. And no tears. How about that? No tears. Unless you want to cry, in which case, hey, look, I've heard a couple people who seem to really enjoy crying. And while I'm absolutely fascinated, I'm like, you do you, boob. That's great.
Grief meditation is a very powerful thing, especially when done in groups, because a lot of us do not allow ourselves to have or experience grief and bottle it up. But I just want to go back to something that Cherry said in the chat, because I don't want this to go unremarked. It is also anti-societal to like yourself. This is why this modern generation is starting to have such a reaction against politeness and pleasantries, because you have politeness codified in your society when you can't be honest. You're not actually in a place where you're coming from yourself. Politeness and all of the pleasantries that come with it are there to mask your feelings. They're there to give a veneer of, no, we're all absolutely fine with this. It's fine, which is one of the reasons why in media we're starting to see those polite terms being used through gritted teeth, because they're starting to acknowledge what this is. The more people are exposed to their actual feelings, the way that they actually feel, and they're breaking down a lot of these societal constructs that have encaged us, the more we realize that, yeah, sometimes it's okay to say no problem. Like when somebody says thank you. Because no, it wasn't a problem. Like just acknowledging, you don't have to thank me for this. It's just a thing that I did. No problem. And you see people having these visceral reactions to, no. You say you're welcome. You say you did it. You don't.
Yes, I saw that too. I've seen that where people are like, no, don't say it's no problem. Like my father, what he used to say instead was happy to be of service. Because that was the most sincere thing he could say to a stranger. Because he genuinely loved to be of service to others. And he definitely raised me to like appreciate that philosophy. But he would say happy to be of service because it genuinely brought him happiness to be helpful to others.
Real quick, just because I've seen several references in the chats after Charlie's bringing up grief meditation. Both Eva and
That's
Spence
what funerals are supposed to be for.
Yeah,
true, that too. Have mentioned, they enjoy crying, when they choose to. One of the things I found out in the past year that, because I'm very neurodiverse, y'all, as autistic as you might think I am probably 10 times as autistic as this. I really don't understand humans.
Captain Masking.
Yes. But one of the things I found out interesting, because I've always been very confused and curious about crying and what is up with crying and why do people cry when they cry? And I finally found it out. What is the use of crying? And it's this. When you cry, your tear ducts can concentrate and expel cortisol from your system much more easily than just processing it out. And so crying is about having excess emotion. That's why you cry when you're really happy. That's why you cry.
Or overwhelmed. Like when you
overwhelmed,
overstimulated,
and
you cry.
You're too sad.
You got more
Everything.
cortisol.
You can cry from the entire spectrum of emotion. People
cry when they're angry. People cry when they're sad. People cry when they're happy. People cry because this puppy finally found a duck to love. or whatever.
Oh, I mean, it's hard not to cry in that one.
Especially when it's a golden retriever. Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's fluffy.
But crying is about excess emotion, and it is a way to flush the excess chemistry out of your system. Like, it is a physical way to remove all the excess tears you've gotten.
Okay, Tom.
Cortisol is your stress hormone. That is how your body actually knows you're stressed. That is why there is both bad stress, mal stress, and there is eustress, EU stress, which is good stress. Here's the funny part. And eustress is when, like, you got a job promotion. You're going on a vacation. You get eustress.
You just got awarded something.
Guess what? You're still stressed. It is still deviation from the average, from your norm. Your body is stressed out either way. Yeah, that's right. Good things stress you out just as much as bad things.
Yes.
And cortisol is produced from the breakdown of adrenaline. And this is a way your body knows, oh, I'm highly stressed. I need to now go recover.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what the tears are about. It's one way
quickly
to force
get rid
clear.
of that cortisol out of your bloodstream.
Yes.
Because cortisol in the temporary really, so the things that cortisol can do along with adrenaline is if you are suddenly bleeding, it will help you clot real fast.
Yes.
It will slow your blood flow by actually restricting your blood vessels, so that you don't bleed out.
But that's what the
from
fight,
your
flight,
heart rate moving from the adrenaline. Okay.
That is what the fight, flight, or freeze is about. And stress is how your body knows it needs to start the fight, flight, or freeze effect.
But cortisol in your bloodstream for several hours starts really aging organs quickly, and aging your spinal fluid too. Like, think about everything you were ever told about how bad, ecstasy is. I don't know, like, if you're old enough, you may have heard back in the 90s, like, oh, every time you drop X or acid, it ages your body 3 years.
MDMA.
And MDMA. If you've ever heard these, that is actually what cortisol does anyway. It wasn't just the drugs. So, yeah, you don't want cortisol in your, like, a lot of cortisol. Hello, dear. You don't want a lot of cortisol in your system for many hours, because it's aging everything inside you. So your body's like, okay, cortisol's been here too long. Like, a couple hours is okay, but now it's too long. We need to get rid of this. Cue the tears. Or you can get rid of it a couple other ways if you process it through aerobic energy, like doing a lot of physical movement. Dancing is another way. If whenever you feel stressed, you feel like, I just need to dance this out. All right, also you may be gay, but I'm teasing. Happy Pride Month,
Not
everybody.
really, but yeah.
I know, I'm not. I am teasing though. Of like, if
Yeah.
anybody, if every time I ever was teaching a child and they told me that when they're stressed, they just have to dance it out, and I was like, I will see you in the gay club in 10 years, child.
Tell me
I
about
did not
my
actually
little
say it
Peter
out loud.
drama kid.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, Peter kid. I just need to dance this out. But again, dancing out, and so aerobic activity can also help your body process cortisol faster. But even faster than that, a really quick way to suddenly shed cortisol, to get it out of your bloodstream real fast, is tears.
That is why, like with Gloria and I, we actually have a fairly high level of chronic pain, but we have such fascinating genetics. Like, seriously, endocrinologists are fascinated by us. We don't notice a lot of that pain. Like, we really don't. You can measure it in our blood, but we don't notice the physical sensation of the pain. But it does mean that when we are in higher pain levels, we tear up faster. We won't recognize why. Like, why am I crying at this?
Oh, no. We literally say to each other, did you know you're tearing up? Did you know there's literally tears running down your face? The other one will go, are there? My face is wet. Well, honey, I didn't do it. I'm not over here, like, taking a water pistol to your face. Which Tom did accuse me of right after. I'm sorry, Charlie?
So what have I told you, too, about being relatable, as I'm wiping literally a tear from my eye?
Tom accused me of doing this a week after his knee surgery, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, show me the water gun. Show me this water pistol that I am, like, shooting onto your face. And he's like, maybe you're hiding behind it. I'm like, I will stand up right now. Go find it. He's like, I couldn't move because I'm new. I'm like, But like, he really believed that I was somehow sneakily. He really thought I was like shooting him here, and it was warm. It was his body temperature, and I'm like, do you realize how hot I would have it for it to go across the room onto? But he was so sure he wasn't crying. It was because he was so unaware of it, but his body was aware of it, and his body was still taking care of that excess cortisol that was prematurely aging his system.
And this is one of the reasons why it is very important to learn various forms of meditation. Because one of the things that we have learned through a lot of the psychological studies that are going on is physiologically, we can't tell the difference between excitement and anxiety. The biological
stress versus regular stress.
Right.
Same
Biologically, they seem to show the same effects in the body. The difference is a psychological switch that we throw that says, oh, I'm excited about this, as opposed to, oh no. And one of the, like, I really feel like this is a superpower that you can develop through meditation, is what a lot of us call that gap moment between the trigger to an emotion and you experiencing it, where time kind of stretches for a moment and you can start directing. You can't exactly choose, and anybody who tells you that you can like magically choose, no, I'm going to be happy about this, they're overselling this technique a lot. But
it is why you see with kids.
Yeah, you can direct how you then experience that trigger effect as it flows out. It is not an easy thing to learn. Don't let anybody lie to you about that either. But it is something that you can start doing.
It's something regular humans are capable of.
Yeah.
It's also but like when you are a small child, and parents who've had multiple kids, especially, or in Gloria's case, who have spent decades babysitting, being the nanny, will notice and pick up on is that whenever a child has a sudden spike in emotional level, whether they just got hurt or they're really, or something good even, oftentimes they will look to the adult in charge of their life, not other adults, but to the adult they identify closely with.
The adult that makes them feel the safest.
And look at their expression to decide and figure out, is this a good or a bad thing, or something I need to be upset about? And if the parent is not upset about it, you'll notice they'll quickly go, okay. And
which is why some children grow up and they fall and they scrape their knees, and they're like, that was an adventure, and they move on. And others just have a complete and utter meltdown. Now, some of that is the psychological makeup of the child. Do not put it on yourself.
Some of it is just the genetic. Let me be honest. Some of it is there is a genetic component in there. Some children, the trigger is different than with other kids. And so make no mistake, nobody is doing like automatically good or bad parenting. Yeah, nobody is like just messing this up for the kid forever. Oh, you always cried all the time because of me. No. There is no value judgment here. It's just some kids, the trigger easily goes one way or the other. Like some children are so easy to make laugh and giggle. And their sibling, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. They're so easy to have a temper tantrum or to cry in a sad way. It's the roll of the dice, y'all. It's the roll of genetic dice. There's no value judgment, but you can kind of reinforce a way to essentially help that child cope. So like when when like little toddlers, little infants are trying to learn to walk at first, they do that little leg pumping thing a lot. When they're standing, they'll hold the coffee table or something and they pump their little fat little baby legs. And then they try to take a step and they fall. And then what do? Do they cry? No. The first thing they do is they look at the parent or the caregiver. And then what I would do is I go, boom. And they go, oh, yeah, this is fine. And then they get back up and pump their little baby legs again because, you got to build muscle. Versus if they cry, they're not going to immediately get up. They're going to be more careful about the next time they get up. And we don't want them to be careful. We want them to decide this whole walking and independent mobility thing is a wonderful, exciting adventure and not be intimidated by all the failures, ideally.
All right, we probably do need to finish up and go on a little bio break. I did
Give all the
finish
introverts a little break from peopling.
Yeah, did finish the poll. We had 12 votes on how often do you meditate. Not a bad split. 33, a third are daily, a third are monthly and when they remember. A sixth are weekly, and a sixth of us just, don't have a use for it.
I'm just going to say right now, once we start talking about other forms of meditation that aren't the stereotypical sitting in lotus position with your eyes closed, I think those numbers are going to go up.
Yes.
On the daily when you realize, that thing that you do in your car where you get kind of lost in the moment singing along to the songs on the way to and from work? That's meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So many things that we do that we think of as kind of automatic or mindless are actually meditative. So, okay. Well, again, we're about to go to break, take a little bio break or a little stop peopling break. And now might be a lovely time to make sure you have something to drink. Your brain needs hydration. So do all the other organs, but your brain too. Or like check in with your bladder, maybe a little walk around, maybe if you have a pet, it's time to do some petting. The one thing we are so good at as humans is petting. Stingrays, y'all. Stingrays and rats come to humans, strangers, just to get petted or tickled. Okay, what is this about? But they do. They love it. It is the one thing we as humans do incredibly well, and it is pettings and tickling. So maybe that's something to meditate on. Till we come back, and we'll see y'all in approximately about 10 minutes. Brr, buck, 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 brr, buck, 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 brr, buck, 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 brr, buck, buck, buck. Stop clicking things, Tom. You're muted, baby.
You were taking so long.
Oh, the criticism from the peanut gallery, y'all.
And you're clucking.
I was trying to give a gentle timer.
I cluck in your general direction.
Brr, buck, buck, for Spence. She don't like to be startled. Charlie's switching computers and we'll be right back. Brr, buck, buck. I was trying to do like a gentle, like loverly clucking. Brr, buck, 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 brr.
So
Yes.
the meditations that
Mm-hmm.
I do
Mm-hmm.
to help me fall asleep. Roy found a squeaky toy. Is I will watch certain YouTube videos to help my brain stop spiraling
Mm-hmm.
and help it slow down. So there's 2 different avenues that I found that, well, 3 that help. There's of course the Headspace, I think is what it was called.
Yep.
They have some of their guided meditation for free on YouTube, so you don't even need the app.
Yeah.
The one with the Curiosity Shop,
Mm-hmm.
that one was nice. But sometimes I feel lonely and sad. And so there's this ASMRist that I found. I hate mouth noises. They don't do those. Oh my gosh, no. Just make my skin crawl. But they're called Moonlight Cottage ASMR. And she does role plays. Like she has her setup of different scenarios, and she'll be in costume and she'll talk to you, and they're so nice. They're just amazing. They're usually like getting ready for a ball, or working in an apothecary shop, or sorting through different vintage items and things like that. And so those ones are lovely to help me calm down and just feel like I'm not alone. So those ones are nice. Also, is it like just ASMR Reiki videos on YouTube? Just the finger flutters and like the hand motions is just, it's so soothing. Like you don't have to believe in any of it. It's just soothing. It's like, yes, please, just go like this, and my eyes will close, and it will be beautiful, and I will sleep in half an hour. Like, so some of those resources have helped me to calm down and just, I don't know.
I mean, you do bring up 2 good purposes. Like, you actually have 2 different purposes of meditation there. The mind space one is more of what we normally traditionally think of as the mental discipline of we're just quieting the mind down and we're giving you a single thought to concentrate on. And instead of it being distracted by so many different things and trying unsuccessfully to finish processing thoughts, versus what you're actually describing with that ASMR is when you're trying to get a specific emotional response, which is you're trying to feel connected. You're feeling social connection. And this, as Charlie was saying, this is another good purpose and use of the meditation tool set, which is sometimes it has been too long since the mind has felt certain emotions, and we will seek those out to help us feel fulfilled again. Oh, nice. You're looking good, Charlie.
Proof of life.
Proof of life.
And
Now
to
we
show
got some
us
really
again-
good news in the break there. But
Oh.
anyway,
But I did want to mention there, of like, as Charlie was saying, like, there's different purposes and uses for meditation that we also need to remember that, help out in different ways. And so, yeah, sometimes like you haven't felt socially connected, or even, as much as we all kind of laugh if we are above a certain age, back in the 90s and early 2000s, there was this big thing about middle-class men getting away for the weekend to feel like they were back in, caveman times.
Oh yes, they would go
Their
and they wouldn't
emotions.
pack shirts.
Yeah.
And only pack cargo shorts or
Yeah.
something like,
Yes.
oh yeah, cave shorts, sure, baby.
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
But it was to get in touch with those emotions that they weren't
And of course,
encountering in
a
their
bongo
regular
drum.
life.
How can you do this without your bongo set?
Yeah.
You
And
think I'm kidding and I'm not?
but it did show, but most of the participants were much more
Yeah.
competent at their jobs during the week when they did these on a monthly basis, because they were using these different types of meditation to get those emotional experiences their mind needed. Like, if you never feel fear, your brain will keep ramping up its anxiety, because it's like, no, I have to regularly feel fear or else something is obviously wrong I'm not noticing. Versus if you purposefully give yourself a sense of fear, the rest of the time you won't feel it much, because your brain goes, oh, okay, we had that experience. We're not doing it now, but we have had it relatively recently. Obviously, I don't need to think about it currently.
it's also one of the reasons why a lot of people with anxiety disorders are drawn to horror cinema, because it helps to actually placate those emotions, because it gives you something safe to be afraid of and lets your brain calm down for a little bit.
We literally train children this way, though. Who remembers going on a bear hunt?
We did snipe hunting.
Go. Laura, every time you talk about your childhood, it's like,
you put toothpaste on your nose. You put toothpaste on your nose, and it's supposed to attract snipes.
Oh, God. Okay, that is a whole different.
That's even another level.
That is like, seriously, Laura. Tales from the Dark Farm.
But really, like, you have no idea, Laura, about the history of snipe hunting
in the South.
Well, no, just in general, because snipes are actually a very local, specific bird to only one region of America and Europe.
I believe the Ozarks.
They don't exist elsewhere. And yet, we hear about snipe hunting across the entire...
It means
this was California.
Else.
Yeah, and
it means something else entirely from bird hunting.
Oh.
It's used as a euphemism to mean various other things you would not want to even be overheard saying that you were going to go do. Like that.
No, we would
go again, Tales from the Dark Farm.
In the woods. Girl Scouts.
So anyhow, oh my God. Okay, anyway.
Look, truly to show, like, there's even like...
No, they don't. They don't. There's like only one place in like all of the U.S. snipes exist.
Which is the northeastern part of the U.S.
I thought it was like Arkansas. I thought it was like in the Ozarks. There's like this... is that where the barking spiders are then?
Don't talk... I don't want to talk about the weird spiders we have around here.
Okay, yeah. There's like barking...
Yeah, the Ozarks have the barking spiders.
Okay, because also in the Deep South,
we also have tarantulas.
Pass wind,
big tarantulas,
and it's socially unacceptable to pass wind in a casual setting. Then you say, "Oh, must be barking spiders around here," instead of acknowledging the wind you have just passed.
Oops, sat on a frog.
Right? So yeah, like barking spiders, but yeah, it's like Arkansas barking spiders are real. They're just not real the rest of the world. Spiders do not bark everywhere else. You cannot blame them. So it's a joke. It's euphemism, a different kind of euphemism from the snipe hunting, which means you're about to go into.
Snipes are part of the sandpiper family. So yeah, if there's no beaches nearby, you're probably not seeing snipes.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah. So anyway, that's a whole nother. Anyway,
so this. I kind of feel like it's important to bring in here the importance of metaphor, because euphemisms are designed to cover things up. Metaphors are there to illuminate and help us understand things better that are hard to talk about. And this is actually how a lot of our euphemisms got started, because people were embarrassed talking about basic bodily functions and started using metaphors that then just, became...
barking spiders, yeah.
Yeah.
Please
Barking
feel free to spread this concept all over the world and just call it barking spiders instead of farting. It is hilarious to realize that there are spiders that make a barking sound somewhere on the planet, though. I thought that was made up.
But this is where a lot of people get confused, and it's important when you're working with anybody in meditation to find out what tradition or lineage they come from, because they will use things that they don't think are metaphors that are metaphors. When a meditation instructor uses words like mind and breath, these seem very like concrete terms that you know what your mind is. It's that thing inside your head. You know what your breath is. It's that thing that you do to live. They're probably using these in ways that are different from the ways that you're used to hearing them. So vocabulary is one of the most necessary parts of getting to understand any of the meditation practices at all.
Just aren't kids wonderful? I love them. I'll tell you the truth, y'all. I'm in my early 40s and I love the word fart. They swore to me, my parents and every other adult I ever knew swore to me, when you grow up, you'll grow out of it. And it has never happened. Just like I was told, when you grow up, the things you liked as a child that you really liked, you won't like as much anymore. You won't love. And guess what? They were all wrong. I still love bacon.
I would say what really changes from being a child to an adult is you do develop more nuance tastes. You notice things a little bit more variety, and you don't get quite the same pleasure from high levels of sweetness. So you're looking for more variety and flavor instead of just how much sweetness can we pack into the smallest package.
And then the darkness takes over you and you're like, why isn't this bitter enough? Or maybe that's just me. I don't know.
The early 20s dark chocolate phase.
Or coffee.
Or coffee.
And
how dark
undercreamed.
can I make this?
Yes.
Does it fill my soul with the bitterness? I must feed it on.
I was doing that earlier today, just like holding my coffee cup, just bitter, like my heart.
But yeah, getting back to
about
the meditation, and there's a lot of different kinds. And so really, before you can go with what we think of as traditional meditation, which is, the silence. The predecessor is the single thought. And there's so many ways to do that, from guided meditation where you're following along with their voice. You're thinking about whatever they say, you trust them, you don't let other thoughts come in, you just stay on the guided meditation. And then it becomes my other personal favorite type of single meditation thought is the body check meditation, where you are quiet, you are with yourself, and you literally just go over every part of your body. How does it feel? And you just acknowledge it. It may be something to think about later with your doctor if you notice something different. But
that one, I remember in my early 20s, that one was very hard to stay awake through the whole body check. Because what I did not realize is I was storing so much anxiety in various parts of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I was unaware that I was doing this. So when they're like, check, be aware of your foot arches. Now tighten them up and then relax them. And then I'm passing out, because to finally release that tension out of various parts of my body where I've been storing tension unaware of, it would relax me so much that I finally got some rest I was not getting. And again, I want to point out, sleep is not a bad thing. If you are in a meditative practice and you fall asleep, I have heard for like 30 years how, you're not good at this, or you're not really sincere if you're falling asleep. And these other value
Stop moralizing meditation.
It is. Please let go, release anyone else's moralizing of your meditative practice. Even if every time for 3 years in a row you fall asleep and you have a best 20-minute nap ever, great. I'm so glad you're getting that kind of quality meditative rest. There's nothing invalid about falling asleep during your meditative practice, because obviously your brain needs that for a moment.
So
We've had a couple people join us. I want to point out hello, Anne, and hello, Heather. And I'm so glad that, yes, jigsaw puzzles, again, are absolutely meditative.
And that's why I put in there physical, movement. Or, because actually, jigsaw is somewhere between physical movement and creative, because you are creating a work of art by solving a jigsaw puzzle.
My brain.
But, yeah.
It's
But
like, Saw?
Why am I not surprised to hear that one?
I've still never seen it, but I know it.
Don't need to. But because you can meditate while walking. I mean, walking meditation is very much a thing.
And it's actually an Eastern practice.
Yes.
So this is not like a Western only thing or something Westerners have come up with to call it meditation, which again, I used to hear 20 years ago about like, oh, people call everything meditation, like your gardening's meditation. That's just a bunch of Westerners trying to claim that what they're already doing is meditation, when really, unless you were like clearing your mind and existing for 3 hours, you're not meditating. Again, this is gatekeeping, and it is not even valid. And also, Eastern philosophy are like, wait, what? What do you mean gardening's not meditation if it is, in fact, meditative for you?
Hence Zen gardens.
Yes.
Like
That's
literally, you're meditating while you're using a comb to go through sand, y'all. What do you mean? It's
Comb in the desert for droids.
Yep.
But I mean, if you're meditating,
I ain't seen shit.
I didn't say it. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I've never been prouder than I am at this point.
According to him, that is the most requested response to this day people have.
Oh,
I mean,
Tim Russ.
right? Because isn't that the guy who plays Tuvok?
Yep, that's
Yes.
Tim Russ.
He's
Tuvok,
like, no, nobody brings up Tuvok, which of course is my favorite character of all his characters. And also, isn't Tuvok like the only one through every single form?
yes. Yeah,
of
because
Star
of a few
Trek?
coincidences, Tuvok existed in the original series timeline. He is, he was on Next Gen and in Voyager, like,
Because he did a lot of extra work before.
Yeah.
And also, he
And they
did a
kept
whole bunch
casting
of
him to play a
voiceover
Vulcan.
in the games.
yes.
And we'd get them to actually put in Tuvok, like aside from all the other voices he was doing. Like, so Tuvok exists in all versions of Star Trek, and I'm here for that. But anyway, I know that has nothing to do with anything. But hello and welcome to this nerd break.
So,
But yes, he's also the one who said, "I've been combing this whole day. I see shit." That's the guy who played Tuvok. That's the actor, and we love him.
But yeah, like walking and garden, of like when a lot of people who talk about that for them to be competent for the day, they wake up and the first thing they do is they go for a run or a jog or a walk around somewhere. When you ask them, well, what are you doing while you do that? And they go, nothing. I'm just there in the moment. Welcome to, that's meditation.
Or if they say, I'm working through a thought or I'm working through an idea, again, that is meditation. If you're taking one thought or one concept or one idea and allowing your brain to roll around it without really having a focus place the thought is going, that is also another form of meditation and a very perfectly valid form of meditative practice.
Yes.
when I teach meditation to people for the first time, I like to use the methods that were developed by Eastern European Jews, because they already are dealing with this Western mindset and how to cope with some of the cultural decisions that have been made in the West. And so the main difference is it has three parts to it. The first, which is referred to as letting the universe in, making your mind open enough that the whole universe can fit in it, is literally, what does it sound like around you? What do you see around you? What thought? Just letting your thoughts run wild, let them run rampant. Whatever is going on, just taking it in, just kind of watching, just being that person sitting on the bench, watching it all pass by. You do that for a period of time, which it's a good idea, especially when you're starting to develop the discipline, to set timers for yourself so that you're not just getting lost in one stage and actually learning to transition from one to the next to the next.
Good point.
The second stage that you get to is you pick a phrase that means something to you. It can be silly, it can be solemn, it can be whatever it is. If you're having a day and you just want to sit there and go Shazam over and over and over, do it. It's fine. The word itself doesn't matter. The point is to focus in so that there's just that one phrase, that one word. That's all. You're narrowing your focus in to just this one thing, into this garushin, this repetition, this one thing that just holds you and fixes your mind. The third state is suddenly dropping that word and sitting in. I love this word that is used in Hebrew. It's a hitbodedut. It's self-isolation. This just spacious emptiness that follows from once you've been repeating something over and over and over to yourself and it disappears. There's this voice.
Do you know what this sounds like to me? For those who study medieval times and literature, this sure sounds like the monk's day.
Yeah. And I want to point out the chant can be a song that you're singing, a song that you're playing. I very often use drumming for mine. It doesn't have to be a word, just something that is repetitive, that repeats, that you can put all of your focus in, whatever that is. I used to do this a lot when I was doing artwork and stippling, because whatever it is, but that moment of release when you just let go and you find the spaciousness there because you've been so focused on the one thing, it helps you understand immediately this idea of relaxation that comes with mindfulness, because you feel that easing, because you've had that tight focus for a period of time, that when you enter that mindful state, and it's a good way to trick your mind into the mindful state, because it's so tired of like, why are you putting all these things on me, that it doesn't want to do anything when you let go of the focus, and you will just naturally roll into that mindful state.
When I was young, just starting to get up to double digits, I didn't realize like this was meditation at all, but I noticed these things because of an episode of DuckTales. In the later in like one of the last seasons, there's a ray some scientists come up with that can drastically increase your intelligence, but the convolution or whatever the difficulty is, you cannot think while the ray is zapping your brain. So, this being DuckTales, they zap Launchpad because he's never got a thought in his head. He's perfectly safe. And see, he becomes super intelligent. But it made me more aware of, all right, when am I thinking and when am I not thinking? And that's when I noticed when I get very intent in video games. Especially for me, it was fighting games. And to a lesser degree, Metroidvania type games, platformers, of where I was reacting. I had a small amount of strategizing, but mostly I wasn't thinking anything. I was simply moving this character through without much thought. In
Robot
fighting games,
unicorn attack.
Yeah. I'm mostly just responding to the stimuli. I am not having much of my own thoughts. And because of that DuckTales episode, I became more cognizant. And what I later realized is that is meditation. You can meditate. That is why in the Western world, and now also in the Eastern world, you hear so much about why do people play video games so much? Why do they spend so much time playing video games? And it's because you don't realize it, but most video games are designed to get you into a meditative state. They also give you that nice bit of dopamine as you succeed at things. So also it's a pleasant experience, but you're not doing heavy strategy in a lot of video games. You get into a very basic, thought process. and that is actually part of meditation. People don't realize it very often or recognize it, but a lot of ways we play video games is for meditative purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation is so often misunderstood because meditation is practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the goal. It's teaching you a skill set, because if you don't know what mindfulness feels like, if you don't know what a spacious mind feels like, if you don't know what a calm state feels like, you can't bring it about later. If you don't have the tool set to bring it about later. And so what you're actually doing when you're meditating is you're going to the mind gym. Like, that's really what you're doing, is you're working out all of this internal mimetic musculature inside your brain, which is teaching you, here's how I find calm, here's how I find a center, here's how I get better at regulating my emotions, seeing when a trigger has been hit, and noticing that very brief moment before you react, and learning to stretch that out so that you can try to have some control over your reaction.
I mean,
So that when
emotions,
you're in the real world, you can do that.
I say, like, emotions, again, emotions aren't bad. Meditation is not a way of getting rid of your emotions, of numbing yourself. It's not teaching you to disassociate. As much as, again, at least Gloria and I used to hear this a lot, of really the way these people were talking about meditation in the 80s and 90s. It was very disassociative.
Mm-hmm.
Overcoming the pain. I'm like, no, the whole point of meditation is that you recognize the pain, you know it's there. Now, how do you use your intelligence to get away from the pain without hurting yourself more? Of just being self-aware.
Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche had this wonderful line where he said, I hate that they always translate it as overcome. The word, at least in my language, we use is jump over.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an obstacle that's there. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm not going to get rid of it, but I have to figure out a way to get around or to the other side of it. And that's what I'm learning. It's going to chase me when I get there, but I want to try to be as many steps ahead of it as I can be, so it's harder for it to catch me. And that's really what we're learning. It's not this idea of I am going to conquer my negative emotions. It's no, I want to be that just a couple steps ahead. I want to be just a little bit ahead.
I mean, meditation taught me about you can't stop the pain. Like, if I've sprained an ankle, I have sprained my ankle. But rather to move with the throbbing rather than against or making it worse, to be mindful and aware of its existence as a friend who is walking with me, so to speak, to get to the place I need to get, i.e. somewhere with an ace bandage, one hopes, based on real experiences. But again, that the pain is with me. The pain, however, I can view it as an enemy or as a friend. And that is my choice. And to see that the pain is there to remind me to be careful with that ankle right now, because it is in a inflammatory state. It's not as strong, and I need to be mindful of that. But that also, the pain is not there to destroy me. The pain is there to protect me from worse injury by making me mindful of its existence, of that area of my body that needs immediate attention. And so, like, learning to breathe and move with the throbbing, therein lies the power of meditative practice. That also, meditation taught me that I can take any incident. All incidences are neutral. It is my decision how I wish to interpret them. And then again, teaching me that pain is your friend, because pain is there to keep you from injuring yourself further if possible, and to make you aware of it so that you can take care of yourself immediately. Because if you didn't know you sprained your ankle, if there wasn't pain, you might do worse damage, like permanent damage.
Also, wanted to mention, anyone may have noticed, like, there's another common situation, especially Hollywood likes to bring up, where all of this is mentioned, and that there is a meditative practice we're all taught, well, women are all taught to do, which is, that's exactly what they do with Lamaze. And no, there are no religious connotations with Lamaze. of how do you handle, birth. But it literally is to teach you how to meditate and handle this sudden onrush of pain, discomfort, surprise, non-standard situation of your body.
Also, one of the things that can happen with sudden onset pain, i.e., like birth or even a serious injury, like including breaking a leg or something, is when you have that much pain, it does a number to your brain. And so, like, one of the things I've personally experienced multiple times, and it tells me I'm in pain when I'm not physically aware of like a pinpoint of pain, is that I suddenly have thoughts of doom. My personal doom, the doom of the world, it doesn't matter, whatever. It's just something like, no, this is it. And often, oddly enough, it's that I should never have children. Why is this the recurrent thought that pain gets me? But when it is extreme pain, and I'm speaking from experience since I passed a kidney stone this weekend, is like making me mindful of when I suddenly have these weird thoughts that I normally don't have, such as, is the world ending or is it just me? Of like, hey, wait, that's the symptom of extreme pain. I need to stop and figure out what is happening to my body. And they actually talk about this in the Moz, that during childbirth, women will experience, not women, people bearing children will experience these strange thoughts of fight, flight, or freeze. Like, such as, I've got to get out of here, wherever here is, this hospital room, this house, the car, whatever. I've got to flee. Please don't flee. You're literally, there's a head coming out of you. We need to catch you. Somebody
Apparently,
grab a
Spence
basket.
really enjoys this, very neurodivergent phrasing.
A sudden non-standard situation of your body. It is pretty true, though. But yeah, of like that. But like Lamaze and other such practices teach you this is normal. But understand it's simply because you're going through this incredible moment where your body is not necessarily capable of handling this much sensory information at once. So your brain's going to say, doom, doom, get out of there, as if you could outrun the baby you are birthing.
Pima Chodron has a wonderful visualization for meditation for pain, where she says to imagine the pain as a crying child. Just pick it up and hold it and just let it cry itself to sleep. Just let it cry. But hold it and sing to it tenderly as if you are that child's mother. Just sing to it and know, yes, I hear you. Yes, I see that you are sad, that you are angry, that you are upset. But just hold it and cradle it in your arms. And there's something magical about doing this. And while it does not make my pain go to zero, because that would be magic and I would love that, most pain is your body going, hey, do you know something's wrong here? Mm-hmm. Hey, do you know something's wrong here? Hey, you really need to know something's wrong here. And actively acknowledging, which is what bringing mindfulness to our pain is, actively acknowledging, yes, I hear you. There is pain there. Your mind has the ability to go, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to stop reminding you because you can't forget. You're a dum-dum. You will forget. But
and then you'll overdo it again.
Yeah, you'll overdo it again. So the pain doesn't exactly go away, but it does recede a little bit. It does.
It's not as strong in your consciousness.
Well,
it's not as strong in your consciousness.
Yeah, like, and some of y'all have, because I've accidentally forgotten to mute myself, like, and so when I come back from like into our voice chat, sometimes you've overheard me. Sometimes when I'm getting back into position with my laptop and everything, it's not necessarily a comfortable experience because invariably I may have overdone it while getting myself something to eat or whatever. And so what I often will be saying to myself is, we're okay, we're okay, we're okay, we're okay. It helps the back of my brain know this is not something to be alarmed about. So we're not going to get more excited. We're okay. I'm aware of all this. I know it's uncomfortable right now, but we're about to be seated and it will be okay once we do. So we're okay now, even though we're not quite seated yet. We're okay. We're okay. We're okay. And who am I talking to? Nobody but me. Yeah, nobody. but I am saying it out loud so I hear it. It's not just a thought to be ignored, but it is now a sound to which to hear. It is helpful because it does. I found, like, yes, Pima's Children was absolutely right. Like, and I would do that to a child. I would hold a child, go, we're gonna be okay. It's all gonna be okay. It's all gonna be okay. You're fine. You're fine. We're here together, and I'm holding you. And that is what I would normally be saying to a child I was holding who was crying.
And this may actually be the psychological mechanism at work when they do studies that show that, like, cussing reduces our sense of pain. There are similar studies that show that this kind of acknowledgement reduces our sense of pain. And it's probably just that. The pain is shouting at you, hey, do you know something's wrong here? And whichever mechanism works best for you is the one that you should use to actually help mitigate those situations. Because this is where a lot of the moralizing comes in. If your meditation that helps you acknowledge your pain and get through it is a series of F-bombs just raining from the sky and scorching everything in front of you, that's what you might need to do.
And they have actually found people with higher estrogen levels, this, for some reason or another, they're not entirely certain yet, does literally reduce perceived pain.
Yeah.
Doesn't work so much for those with a lot of testosterone, but they know at least with, like, a lot of estrogen.
Okay, and specifically, it's not, oh, you feel placated. No, like, literally we're talking about a study of the nervous system. Yes. And the static in the nervous system calms down when people with higher estrogen curse a blue streak.
And you're right. That's what that. Yep.
Yes. So, like, yes, I mean, like, for me, Whoopi Goldberg taught me to curse. Jumpin' Jack Flash, y'all. And several and Burglar, the movie Burglar, if you, you know.
Oh, I love the cursing in
Whoopi Goldberg's 80s films taught me how to curse with art. Like, just really cultivate this. And the more artistic you get in your cursing, the more, at least for me, it helped with the pain. But, like, it specifically calms the nervous system. So remember, you can, like, soothe the baby, or you can curse out.
And it has, but
either way helps.
It has to be a curse word that you're societally not supposed to say, that is societally offensive.
And
yes.
Whoopi Goldberg in the 80s, all the naughty phrases.
So good at it.
There are phrases she says that I was like, as a child, going, wait, you could do that or not do that? What is this? And my parents were like, oh, good. Shouting every swear word in your lexicon in 10 seconds is an incredibly effective way of coping with pain.
It really is.
I mean, yeah, how many different ways can you use this word in a sentence?
Right there.
It's just a sentence of the word.
Late last week, the House
Well, hey, look. Maybe it's about time to get ready to go to a break.
And when we come back, we will continue with, all right, here are some more specific ways you can meditate. Here are some more strategies we can all take.
We'll all be sharing various meditative styles or practices that have been helpful for us or for people we know in the past. Because maybe if you have struggled in the past to meditate and you haven't really found it to be satisfying, then perhaps it's just you have not yet found the right kind of meditative practice for your brain. That's all.
Like my YouTube, which likes to play random videos at times for no reason and no warning. Sometimes quiet meditation is not the only kind of meditation, y'all.
That is true.
Sometimes destructive meditation is the way.
People talk about being in a fugue state in a mosh pit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they crave going to mosh pits, is to get that mind clearing fugue state, that zone, in the zone or in the flow.
Yep.
And absolutely understandable, as long as you don't get physically hurt too much, I guess. Hey, what can I say? I'm a rubber band person. So anyhow, again, now is a wonderful time to make sure you have something to drink. We are a hydrate or dehydrate kind of community. Do you have a snack? Is it time for a snack? Did you know that popcorn is the writer's snack of choice? I have this on good authority.
Do I need to go make us some over the break?
It's not required, but it is always appreciated.
I just like to now imagine Anna saying this in a very childlike voice. It sounds really adorable. You're right.
So, and on that note, we will catch y'all back here in approximately 10 minutes. beepity beep, beepity beep, beepity beepity beep, 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 beep. Meep, beep, 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 beep. Meep, beep, 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 beep. Hope everybody enjoyed.
It was fabulous.
Don't want to negatively startle anyone. Tom will join us in a minute. We live in an apartment with only one toilet. And as the oldest sibling, I beat him to it. So. However,
How dare.
popcorn.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, y'all, it smells amazing.
I spent that sprint singing along to Kate Bush because, well, Stranger Things put her back into the forefront of my consciousness, and I can't stop listening to her again.
Is that why YouTube keeps recommending Running Up the Hill?
Yeah,
Singing?
yeah, that song is heavily featured in the latest season of Stranger Things, and for very good reason.
I was wondering why she was trending.
And Trash Theory did a wonderful video about the making of that album. I highly recommend if you are interested in music and you are not watching Trash Theory on YouTube, I highly recommend his channel. It's all the stories that nobody tells because it's the music that is often not paid attention to. So the history of girl rock, the history of punk, the history of goth, the history of all of the music of basically everything punk and post-punk and beyond. And it's just beautiful and fascinating and wonderful because he goes into the archives and pulls up old interviews, and it's very well researched. It's a very good show.
Very nice.
So, I closed the poll for favorite meditation style. You can tell how neurodiverse this group is.
Okay.
2/3 said creating is their favorite meditation style. It is not silence. It's not even guided. It's not just moving or walking. It's making. And that's very understandable. And something, if you're neurodiverse, you also need to be aware of is the neurotypical styles may not work as well for you. Hence we saw CB to find meditations that work with your style. So making things, whether that's, with Legos or blocks or clay or painting, you can literally just paint a meditation concept. Just see where it takes you.
That's what my music is. It's one of the reasons why, when Spotify sends me all of the wonderful emails about how they can help me make the monies, which is a lie, but I really don't care because I'm not doing it for those reasons. I will have something that I'm thinking about. Very often it's a person or a theme that I'm thinking about, and just sit there and noodle around until I find something that I enjoy listening to. And I will spend hours and sometimes days just with one melody trying to get it to feel to me the way I want it to feel.
Are you saying you can noodle without a sax? For all those who watch too much Futurama. Just got that one. But yes, music.
An online app, it's called Hook Theory. It's from Hook Labs, and it is basically a sketchpad for music. If you've ever wanted to start writing music and you didn't know where to start, and you didn't know how to do it, it's literally a sketchpad for music. You can just start literally scrawling rhythms, and You bring to it as much music theory as you want. They actually have music theory built into it that they'll teach you if you don't actually have a background in that, or you can just play around with it and have it make sounds. And it is one of the most liberating things that I've found in the last several years. Yeah, it's a great, wonderful site. Great.
My favorite game on the Nintendo DS is this little known of game made by, like, I can't remember how small the studio is in France. I want to say it was like 4 guys, or at least 4 people. Who knows? I don't remember what their genders are at the minute. And what it is it's a rhythm music game where you create. And how do you create this? By different colors of raindrops that fall onto a plant, and you decide how quickly they go, what tone is based on their color, and you can create these simple to very complex rhythms and music just with these little drops of sound. But to be honest, like, that is my favorite game on Nintendo DS. I wish they would bring this to the phone, because it's so simple. It's not a problem making a mobile game of this, but I miss it. I miss it. I know roughly where my Nintendo DS is. I just haven't quite felt like digging it up.
It's deep in the depression living room.
No, well, yes, sort of close. It's in the laundry hamper of forgetting next to the living room.
Oh, remember, I learned a new phrase watching TikTok compilations while dealing with my kidney stone this weekend.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Doom bags and doom drawers. This is what ADHD people and I think other neurodivergent people do. You take a random bag and you put a variety of random things in it, and then you put it somewhere else and you close that door. And it is called a doom bag. Or if you do like a junk drawer, a doom drawer. And the reason all the things are in there make no sense. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Heather, I figured yours was moving in part because of seeing how much you like posting on Instagram the flowers and the scenery you see. And usually only people who go...
like the creating more.
And usually I only see that with people who are sort of doing a meditation walk, of where they are just present in the moment and they just see what's around them. And that's when you notice, these little artistic bits of, like, the way the flowers are arranged, or the way the water in the pond and the greenery is arranged. You tend to notice those more when you're meditating while you're walking or moving. Or gardening. You have the same thing of, like, oh, that looks very nice. Maybe we should capture that and show others.
I love seeing how many people in the chat are mentioning that listening to music is their favorite way, because our entire Western musical tradition is born out of what were essentially meditation songs. They were from starting with Greek choral music all the way through to the church music that gave rise to the classical music. And even when you get into rock and roll, those were based off of rhythms that were part of the dances, the community dances that existed in Africa that were remembered and preserved by those that were enslaved and brought here.
I do have a fun little playlist that's just called Gospel Becomes Rock, about...
Well, heavy metal, specifically.
Well, really heavy metal. Of how you can literally see the tunes and riffs go from 19th century black gospel.
Y'all, I've been trying to get Tom to make a video about this for literally, let's see, when did we live together last? Like, we started to, it was 12, 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Tom made a playlist to show these progressions, these choral and chord progressions, how they start with gospel, with specifically Mississippi gospel, which is very much Delta gospel, which is the African American, like, straight off the boat, Africa, enslaved folks, music, and how it then comes heavy metal riffs, and how if you just take heavy metal music and you play it on a church choir organ, you suddenly hear the gospel music again, because there is very little difference. And Tom made this wonderful thing, and he like presented it in our family.
Like, can it really be heavy metal if you can't play it on an organ?
He made this lovely presentation. Mom was still alive back then, and we all loved it. This is something our family does for fun. Is we make 20 to 30-minute presentations and then present them in the living room. This was something we all used to do.
You know, because we live in America, we don't have the royal institution to give these,
It's just a fake family institution.
Before TEDx.
So anyway, since Tom did this original presentation 13 years ago, I've been trying to actually get him to make a video of this to share this with everybody, because it is this wonderful experience to go from the meditative music of gospel music to heavy metal to Bach. And it truly makes music look so different, but also so just so much more lovely in all directions. So if anybody would like to help me encourage Tom, please feel free at any point now or in the future. I have not given up my campaign, so please join me in my campaign to get Tom to actually make a video to share with everybody. It's not that long. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled live stream.
I just feel like that playlist needs to end with some zeal and ardor that brings the gospel back in.
What's the name of the band?
Zeal and ardor.
Well, I mean, that has kind of been our problem, is like, how do I really bring it back around?
Anne's on the bandwagon. Thanks, Anne. Appreciate your encouragement and support.
Yeah, their first album is basically a dark gospel album with a lot of death growl screaming and loud guitar. And
gospel is what you're saying.
Yes, it is.
I mean,
they're one of the best metal bands around right now.
Because I mean, like, oddly, I found who is it? Lordi, the Norwegian or Finnish, Scandinavian band, whatever they are.
No, Nordic. Let's say Nordic, and then we don't have to, because remember the Finns are not Scans.
Oh, that's right.
They're only Nordic.
Yeah, the Nordic band Lordi is actually really good at showing. No, they literally are using gospel riffs,
and they're using gospel chords, chord progression,
and they even have choirs in them,
which is pretty cool. And that is how Tom got me into Lordi, because I am here for gospel. I grew up in Mississippi with the Mississippi Sounds. Yeah. But anyway, I'll just click that. You were here.
I was in the middle of searching for, zeal and ardor.
Okay. ADHD is always with us.
Their protest album that they did during the Black Lives Matter protests, Wake of a Nation, is one of the most powerful things. It mixes all of the music traditions of our great country, from the I can't remember the word for it, the New Orleans funeral marches. There's actually a word for that style of music that is escaping me at the moment. All the way down, and one of the songs on there is just the last thing said by a bunch of people that were later shot by cops. And it is a powerful album, but their music is very dark. That's why I wanted to, for anybody who's like, oh, I want to check them out. All of their music is very dark. Like, their first album deals with themes of slavery and freedom and liberation. It deals a lot with what happened in the Haitian Revolt. There are several songs dedicated to the Haitian Revolt. And they pull no punches. So darkness is dark, y'all. So
it is.
Caveat.
Kat also agrees with me, Tom. Tom, do it.
Yes, do it.
Also, completely off topic, Charlie, I'm downloading Fallen Order. We'll see if I like to play it.
Fallen Order, the game that I like to call Let's Not Fall From This Thing. That's what it should be called.
So it was named correctly?
What? There's truth in advertising?
Yeah, because most of the game, like the hardest parts of the game are not like, can I defeat this boss? It's, I have to jump from where to where. How?
I'm genuinely terrible at that.
How do I not fall? How do I not fall? So if you can get through the first mission where, oh no, the ladder's out, why don't you dangle from the bottom of the scaffolding and make your way to us through a very circuitous route where you're climbing up grates walking across small little lines of courting between buildings and whatnot. If you can get past that, you'll like the game. It's very, very truth in advertising. Like, this is the real game. Yeah, you get to use a lightsaber and fight things too, but the real game is, can you not fall?
Okay. In reality, favorite ways to meditate. What you got?
Actually, real quick, we were saw several in the comments about music.
Yeah.
And
But I
music
mean, like,
is,
panel
I know,
here.
but I just mean, and music is very much that when you want to do specific emotions, like it's a great way to do an emotional wash of yourself. Is like that's what I love the music playlist for. Or like in Glory's case, music playlist for when I need to feel like a certain time period and group.
You broke Charlie.
The dog's after something, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. I think it was a little bit of cat fluff that was just tumbleweeding through the house because
The audacity.
Honestly, now that I have a better sense of meditation, we didn't really mention it earlier. We meant to. Is when you're doing silent meditation and you're really developing that, you're in the gymnasium of your mind. One of the things really I picked up from Pima Chodron that was very transformative for me was when you're going for silence, true silence. And by the way, even her, not boss, I forget what you call the person who is over her,
Let's say mentor.
mentor.
Let's say mentor. Because
Mentor was saying, people have asked, how long do you meditate and how do you stay quiet that long? And his response was, oh, it doesn't stay quiet in my mind. Yeah, I've been doing this for 60 years, but I still have unbidden thoughts constantly. That's why I still meditate. Is that when you're meditating for true silence and inner peace, it is the trick with all these unbidden thoughts is you have to acknowledge them and then just let them go. And occasionally, as Glory likes to demonstrate, what you do in your mind or physically.
Oh, yes, you can do this physically. Is if you have a thought that will not, most thoughts when you're meditating will just pass right through if you just let them. They're just trucking through, they're fine. But there's a few thoughts that they'll linger. And what you can do if you do not want them to stay, as more than likely you do not, is you blow them away like a dandelion seed. And that you can physically do this if you need to, especially if it is a malingering thought, is to physically, in the middle of your meditative practice, literally, and that's it. No thought requires any more force than the force of your breath one time puffing it away.
Otherwise, it's getting the emotional response.
Exactly.
It's trying to get out of you.
So just imagine thoughts as little dandelion fluff. That is all they need to move on their way. Try it. I haven't had anybody tell me that it took more than 3 practices of this, 3 different meditators, before they could actually start seeing the thought finally float away. Even the most persistent thoughts will float away after you practice this visualization a few times of just like a dandelion fluff. Also, it may make you like playing dandelions again, too, by the way.
Those people who shall not be mentioned, because I don't need to get into another thing with Glory about them, like to say, imagine yourself sitting in a stream and the thoughts are leaves on the top of the water. You watch them go by, but don't pick them up. You don't know where they've been.
But I mean, honestly, once I really developed a good skill at it, like anything, we like to do things well. We don't like it when we're really bad at it. But now that I am actually quite good at silent meditation, I do actually like doing it. Like when I drive, when I'm having problems falling asleep, when I'm emotionally exhausted. That is kind of my first go-to. And then when I've just been overstimulated, that's when I will tend to go towards music playlists to do a roller coaster of emotion to kind of wash out my brain of all these built up detritus of emotion that I don't know what that it, it's reached that point where you're not even sure why you're upset at the world. You just know you feel upset, or you feel angry, or you feel sad, and you're like, why am I? And the answer is that's when I like to go to a music playlist to kind of go through a bit of a set of emotions, and then afterwards I can see, all right, now that I've kind of done an up and down of emotions, now what am I feeling? And do I still feel that?
So I'm a very visual meditator. I have a very visual imagination. And so
we've seen your art.
Oddly enough, visualization is one of my go-tos that I like to do. But I was introduced to Togal meditation many years ago, and it is one of the hardest forms of visualization I've ever had to do, because it is basically Tibetan fake it until you make it meditation. That's how it was actually pitched to me. You have to the whole process of imagination, of visualization, is you are now an enlightened being with all of the qualities thereof. So imagine yourself free from discursive thought. Imagine yourself free from pain, radiating compassion, nothing but compassion, kindness. You're literally imagining yourself in this idealized, perfect state that you are trying to achieve, and then holding it as long as you can. And then from this position, imagining yourself you ask yourself the question of, what blessing do you bestow upon this world? And it's really interesting when you ask it that way, because it's so focusing for the work that you're wanting to do, because you've spent so much time clearing your mind through this practice. You've spent so much time getting yourself, reciting the compassions and getting yourself into this place that you'll start saying things that you don't expect to say, because they're not always like, well, I would bring world peace, or I would make all the people have full bellies, or I would cure all disease. Those Miss America answers.
What was it? No. I will hug all the kittens.
Yeah.
Remember her crying? Like, it's like, was it
Crying
PMS?
kitten woman.
It was PMS. But yeah, like all the kittens that need hugging.
Because those are the things that you think that you're going to answer in this place. Like, if I had ultimate godlike authority, what would I do? And you find yourself thinking, I should call this person. Like, you realize at this moment, like, what is it that now that I have achieved this place of true compassion, that I'm imagining myself as this idealized perfect being, you've cast out all the distractions. And then you start realizing, oh, I haven't talked to so-and-so for a while. I wonder how they're doing. I know their mom was sick. I wonder if they're okay. And you start realizing the little things. It's this interesting thing that happens in Togal and other meditation forms like this, where you get yourself to such a distance from your regular life that you start noticing the little things that actually matter, the little things that you can actually do and make a difference in. And it's an odd experience, because again, you hear a lot of the people that just want your money and pretend that they are already perfect talking about how, you will have these grand ambitions, you will become this grand universal being or what have you. But the longer you do this, the more you realize it's the little things. It really is. Like, that's not a trite saying. It's the little things of...
Is it all the small things?
Yeah.
Commiserating.
You know where I'm going.
I know exactly where you're going.
But no, it's absolutely true. You're absolutely correct.
I should write a letter to somebody. I should have a cup of, tummy tamer tea. That's what would be the ultimate compassionate thing for me to do right now, to save everybody from the storm that will follow. You start realizing the little things, and anything that gets you into that mind state, to me, is like the best thing, because I have a problem of being very big picture, and seeing like little steps is the Herculean task. Like, I can't see like, well, what's the thing I should do now? What is the next thing I should do? It's like, oh no, let's publish a book. Every time I say that to myself, no matter how many times I've done it, my mind doesn't immediately go to, okay, well then I need to world build and outline and write it and edit it and da. My mind just gets to, book be done. Why is broken?
I think for me, it's sort of a different response of like, oh, I need to publish a book. The answer is, I don't know. There's too many steps. I'm going to go bake brownies instead. And I will figure it out during my meditative practice. Thanks for the plug. But I actually came to that in a truly by accident, a different way. This was at the point that my life was truly in free for all. About 12 years ago. Mom was sick, but we didn't know yet what. And I was spending so much time driving my mother to and from doctor appointments in another state that my marriage ended as well. Because I was spending too much time taking care of my mother, officially, was what I was told. And which I'm like, look, if that's the line in the sand, I'm proud to be on this side. But I was in an incredible state of turmoil and was really having trouble meditating at all, let alone even prayer or any kind of quietude within. And it was really making me mentally spiral, which is not normal for me. Not that kind of spiraling. This was a very dark, destructive, terrible, and I could tell that, but I didn't want to be there and I could not stop myself. It was truly this place I could not escape, and yet I knew was very dangerous for me and frankly for people who loved me. And I did not know what to do, and I could not get any of my meditative practices to help. No amount of baking was fixing this. And no amount of anything actually was fixing it. And I came upon this idea of to literally just, I was already laying on my living room floor that particular month anyway. Don't ask. It was the time. I was practicing wallowing.
She has a pillow specifically for wallowing.
Oh, yes, I do. It's a wallowing pillow, and that is what we call it, the wallowing pillow. And it's helpful if you need a wallow.
It's a very firm body pillow.
Comfortably wallow, so you don't hurt your hips or something. And I literally just meditated, sending thoughts of love to water. And I originally actually started by imagining a body of water. I saw some pictures online of some really beautiful bodies of water. There was one that looked really awesome. I Googled a bunch of pictures of it. And then that was it. I just meditated, sending thoughts of love to this body of water elsewhere on the planet. And within 5 minutes, I fell asleep and had a really lovely 20-minute nap. And woke up feeling great. And the next day, I tried it again. And I fell asleep again after 5 minutes.
See you later, Heather.
See ya. And when I woke up, I felt better. I felt better than I had felt in days, weeks at that point. And I kept doing this. And then I eventually stopped falling asleep, which was great. Because the whole point was to have 20-minute meditation. And so then I tried just imagining sending love to all the water in my house, which included my own body, which was where the conflict was, and again fell asleep. And thought, well, I definitely need to keep working on this. But the story I'm here to tell you about is eventually I did stop falling asleep, even while thinking about sending love to all the water within my body and all the water within the house, and eventually all the water within the world. And I looked in the mirror and I did not hate the person I am. I respected her for trying her best and failing miserably. Like totally messing up and ruining every plan and goal she'd ever had for her life. This was obviously the end of all of that. And this was how I was coping with my grief, was to love the water. I could not love me, but I could love the water within me. And I could love the water within everyone else, including the people who were tearing my life apart, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And I could still love the water within them, even though I disagreed with the choices they were making or how they were treating me. And that is where I started finding compassion. It would be many, many years before I could like say, yes, I do feel compassion for myself. But that was the very first baby step, was to just meditate on sending thoughts of love to water. And there was an actual scientific reason behind this. So there's this thing called electrons. And it turns out that our thoughts are primarily electron movement. And also it turns out electrons can move around the planet, possibly through the solar system, literally instantaneously. Like, they actually can transform themselves from one spot to another and there be no sense of time. They do move faster than light.
Yep.
So the idea of taking your electrons in your brain that are tuned to love, which is a certain harmony, and sending it to other water, filled with electrons, to somehow make some kind of ripple in the world some way, was very satisfying to me. It was something I felt like such a victim of my life at that point, and I'm the one who did it. But here is one way I could change something, and I could change it for the better, is to send loving electrons to other water molecules. Talking badly to water and then freezing it thing. I do not know about this.
I've never
Well,
heard
that
of
was
that.
actually the follow-up to the first one, where the guy was just practicing having different thoughts around water and noticing different ways it crystallized.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be Rupert Sheldrake if I'm.
I'm terrible with names on a good day, so.
Yeah, I think that was Sheldrake.
But yeah, like the idea of electrons, pretty much as far as we can tell, are like how our thoughts, how our brain actually runs thoughts, is essentially attaching it to an electron, and the electron moves. And electrons can instantaneously move anywhere, at least on the planet, if not the solar system. So sending some electrons that are thinking about love to another body of water, another part of water, whether it's in another person or another part of the planet. It was just a meditation. It doesn't mean that I genuinely believed anything was going to change. But it really was the first baby step for me in learning to practice self-compassion. It would take years. Yes, Charlie. You got it.
Sorry, I have an issue here because we have corrupted the word belief, and it upsets me. Belief has two major meanings in English still. One is something that we give mental assent to, and something is something that we put our heart into. You did put your heart into it. And that's when we talk about belief.
But like, I wasn't expecting any change. I wasn't expecting them to freeze in a different formation and need that proof to somehow validate myself. There was no expectation of a validation because I did not need that. It was just an activity to do because I could not stop my thoughts entirely. So I needed to think about something else because the shame spiral was so strong in that month of my life.
I just wanted to say something because this is where people get lost in meditation, is they see the word believe and don't understand that this word also in English, but in most of the languages that these texts are being translated from, literally means to invest your heart into it, to put energy into it. It's not this mental assent thing that only became a part of this word in the 1800s.
I don't know why
I didn't want to interrupt, but I wanted to interject, and I was like, I
appreciate that. I really do.
I didn't want to talk over. Just was like
of the meditation is that you personally believe what you are thinking. You are aligning your thoughts sort of with your actions.
In my thought, but not like believing that there would be some effect from the cause of my thought, is what I was trying to communicate. Now, miscommunication is a common concern in neurodivergence. So that's why, again, I'm not offended. I feel like Charlie was helping me clarify, as was Tom. in that by prompting me to essentially extrapolate a little further, explain what was, when I say this, what do I mean? Because that is obviously not necessarily what y'all were thinking, and were essentially prompting me to clarify, and I appreciate that. I really do.
Because a lot of people get really lost when they're reading a meditation and it says, now really believe this, or something to that effect. And that's not giving mental assent to something. It's not, now bow your knee and obey, child, which is how it is so often used in post-Enlightenment English. It literally means just, no, feel it. Just be in the moment. Like, live the journey song, for God's sakes. Don't stop believing. Just put your heart in it. You know?
Temporarily believe you can dance as well as anyone on the dance floor, and just dance.
Just dance.
Stop worrying how well you're dancing. Just believe you can dance and go out on the dance floor and dance. It doesn't matter what your external reality is. Right now, we're just in the internal. Just have this be your internal truth.
Because that's where we change our minds. Like, Glory's story is so illustrative of this, because this is how we change those thought processes. If you're not putting your energy into it, if you're not putting your heart into it, this is where, if you remember at the beginning, I was talking about all the metaphors we use and how we use them differently. And when you sit down with a group of meditators, start with vocabulary. How are we going to use these words so we're not talking past each other? Because energy, mind, heart, all of those words can mean the same thing. I'm using them interchangeably because I don't know what words
Here
in the audience is going to.
Here's my favorite one for everyone. Real quick dictionary lesson. Soul, chi, breath. Literally all mean the exact same thing.
Same word.
They are all the actual same word.
Yep.
We use them differently because of when they came into our lexicon, but they are literally all the same word.
Yep.
They only actually reference the expiration from your mouth. We have now put a lot of different meanings into them, hence Charlie talking about we need to first come to consensus on common terms we are going to use on this moment.
Which is absolutely, we need to have a mutual dictionary to talk about these very important things that are ephemeral. Thoughts are ephemeral. Hence, we can blow them away with a daffodil puff. But, like, yeah, that was, I had read for years so many, particularly Buddhist teachings, talking about you need to practice self-compassion, loving compassion. Oh my God, they use this word all the dang time, loving compassion. And I'm like, I have no idea. I can't tell y'all how many different dictionaries I looked this up in and was like, still, this is meaningless to me. Because this was not something I really experienced in a receiving way, like when I was in my formative years, when I was a child. I did not experience unconditional love from my parents in a way that was meaningful to me or I could understand at the time. I now, in my 40s, can look back and go, yeah, I see it now. But let me tell you, it took this long to get here. I did not feel that way in my 20s at all, that my parents had ever acted in a compassionate or unconditionally loving way to me at all. But that was me. And so my first baby step, that was like my first conscious baby step, is I guess what I really mean, toward the path of experiencing and therefore also acting in a loving, compassionate way, like mindfully acting in a loving, compassionate way toward others, was this very odd meditation where I simply think about sending all my little thought electrons out to other water molecule electrons and going, love, love, love. I approve of you. You're wonderful. Keep watering your waterness. Do it and do it with joy. Whatever. Have a great time, water. And that's it. Like, but it was magical in its own little tiny baby step way. And that is the reason I share this with y'all. I've now shared this actually with a couple dozen people who have also said, like, I've tried meditating so many ways and nothing works. And I'm like, okay, here's the meditation of last resort. Try it out. And usually the first 5 times they fall asleep. And I'm like, it's a great nap though, isn't it? Oh my God, why is this such a good nap? It's like the nap of the innocent. And then something happens. And over a several month period, even when they don't like do it regularly, but they still occasionally try to have this meditation about sending the thoughts of love to some water somewhere, even if, and I do mean this, it has been a bottle of water. Because I'm like, if you have a partially drunk bottle of water, it counts. Send love to that and then drink it. Like, or not, whatever. Water some plants with it, whatever you want to do. You do you. I have seen this change in people. It is magical. It makes no sense, but it works. And that is all I have to give you. I have only the headology to give you. I can't explain the magic science. But even Tom, who like yelled one day to me many, many years ago, Glory, I can never feel compassion. I don't know what it is. There were hands. He was throwing hands. He's like, can't. This will never happen. And I'm like, give this thing a try, this weird meditation. Come back to me in 4 to 6 months and tell me what you think. And he was like, well, I've been humbled now a little. How dare you take away my, little podium by which I used to stand on and go, I will never know what compassion feels like, and so I certainly can't give it to others. Which he used to get on that little apple box all the dang time and tell me this.
It was a delicious feeling on that apple box.
Jerk, by the way. I didn't mean to turn him compassionate. I just wanted him to find a little bit of peace. A little bit of internal peace. God knows he certainly deserved it. He'd been through hell. Not necessarily the same kind of hells I've been through, but I definitely saw the pain and did not, at a certain point, the mental anguish is not helping anymore. And that was where I saw him in that moment. And was like, look, give it a try. And so that is why I share this with you, this very odd here's a little piece of magic I stumbled on by accident.
I had problems understanding compassion too. Like, this word really
Yes.
was problematic for me. And like so many weird things in my life, I learned it through grammar. And it was when I was studying Hebrew, because in Hebrew, the most common word for compassion is chesed. It's loving kindness. It is compassion. It is devotion. There's a lot of words that English words you can fit into this one thing. But when it's used specifically in this form of to mean something like compassion, the verb that it's always conjoined with is one gimelut chesed. You give, you bestow compassion, you bestow loving kindness. It's not something that I am. It's not a feeling. It's something I give. It's something I do. And that for me was this huge revelation in my brain, this one little grammatical twist from the English be compassionate, which is something inside me that I don't know how to be compassionate. I don't know what this is.
How do I embody this?
Yeah. But to bestow compassion, to bestow loving kindness. Oh, I know how to bestow loving kindness. When a friend comes over to the house, I'm like, do you want some water? Do you want some tea? I've got 1,000 teas. You want to try one? What's your favorite flavor? I probably got a tea for you. That's gimelut chesed. That's bestowing loving kindness. That's those little acts of giving of yourself to others. And that was my key in to understanding this and having that realization, like, which is, again, it's remarkable how our stories mesh but are different, because you learn this through giving, through bestowing kindness, loving kindness to water. It's that same thing. Like, once you learn that compassion is a doing, it's a thing that we do. It's one, liberating, and two, something you can make an action plan for.
All right.
I felt like
we're gonna hold on just a minute. We need to put a pin in it, since Laura's going to need to go soon.
Yes.
We still need to first hear what are her favorite ways to meditate. Yes, you did bring them up at the beginning of the hour.
Yeah.
But still, we need to hear as part of this little group.
Okay. Recap again. To help me calm my mind and just feel more at ease so I can sleep. Headspace with the guided meditations, specifically the free one on YouTube, the Antique Shop.
Mhm. Also, a lot of businesses now actually include it as a benefit to their employees. So you may want to double check with your business benefits if Headspace is just paid for as part of their thing.
Nice. The other one that I use to help fall asleep that way is ASMR Reiki sessions on YouTube. Don't have to give credence to everything that's going on. It's just soothing. But
It's a fun adult game of pretend, if nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, through the screen, we're going to, you know,
We're
pretend.
gonna cleanse you with burning sage through the screen
All
and
life is
massage
in
your
the game
aura
of
through the
pretend.
screen.
But I mean, a lot of
Wave
it,
these crystals over the
Mhm.
screen.
but it is all about, you know, how you interpret things. So
Mhm.
it's valid.
Yeah. So
There's nothing
those-
wrong with it because we're just trying to get this in our own minds. So yeah, it works. It's fun.
soothing.
It's soothing.
And then to help me feel grounded, I guess, when I'm having anxiety, are the ASMR videos by Moonlight Cottage.
Mhm.
Does not do mouth sounds. Very nice. She does personal attention role plays, basically. So she opens a barber shop, she opens a hair salon, she gets you ready for a ball, and it's all these personal attentions, and she'll talk to you and like get the colors of the gowns and the wraps and everything, and it's
That's
just
what
so
reminds me of
soothing.
child play, where we're like, let's get ready for the ball. Oh, ma'am, your dress is so beautiful. You know,
Yes. And then she'll like burn the clove so she can do your eyebrows because this is old school. And it's like, oh my gosh. And she like grinds the coal in the mortar and pestle so she can do your eyeliner, and like, it's so nice. And it just makes you feel like you're not alone. And it just helps cut through the onslaught of emotion. So their stuff is great. But yeah, those are the 3 things that I recommend. And now I'm going to run and eat some dinner.
Okay, Laura's links are down below, as are Charlie's.
Love you all. I love your water.
I love your water too.
Bye.
Very nice.
It's a weird tangent, but I mean, if I didn't bring up some weird arcane philosophical subject in one of these, you would be like, why is Charlie a pod person? What happened? See,
I'd like to see the story where we get invaded by aliens like you, of those pod people, of like, you know, this is going to take that entire story in a very different direction.
Well, I mean, I'm one to go off on philosophical tangents, but you know, I am someone who is not a positivist. I do not, and I have a hard time understanding the point of view of people who are. I don't personally believe that we actually interact that much with the real world. It's not that the thing that I'm touching in front of me isn't real. I don't doubt reality in that sense, but I only know it because of my senses. I only know it because this is the visual information that is going into my very flawed eyes, and the sound that is going into my extremely flawed ears, and my sense of touch and everything else. It is an illusion formed inside my mind that's the best simulacrum, the best simulation my brain can make of the stimuli that's coming in. And so while I'm not somebody who doubts that the real world exists, I really want to state that up front. I don't think it's valuable to spend so much time saying, well, I don't necessarily believe this, that, or the other thing, because most of our experiences are just in our mind, especially when dealing with the conversations of meditation. These experiences of pain well, yes, they're technically in our body, but the experience itself is here. The experience is all in the brain. Our emotional distress, it is all in our mind. And so it's all a fluffy game of pretend. This is one of the things that's really hard to diagnose internal problems, because our brain doesn't understand where things are on the inside of us and will externalize the pain somewhere else. And you will feel pain somewhere other than where the pain's actually happening, because your brain can't imagine where the pain actually is.
It's true. There's no difference between what is happening inside your head and the external world. Your brain cannot tell the difference. So external violence is internalized. Whether you want it to or not, your brain can't tell the difference. So it's all internalized. Therein is the problem.
When you're dealing, especially in topics of meditation and in topics of thoughtfulness, it doesn't, in many respects, matter if you are dealing with an actual oogie boogie energy coming through the screen, or if you are just allowing it to alter your perception that you're having in your mind. The perception is what you want altered either way. The perception is what you want to change either way. And so going back to what we were talking about earlier of approaching this like you would as a child, like, I understand not wanting to be seen as crazy because, oh, you believe in all of this oogie boogie woo woo stuff. I don't know. All I know is when I think about these things, when I practice these things, my mental perceptions of my reality change for the better. I become a calmer person. I become a person who doesn't experience as much pain. And that is a valid and true experience. Now, don't become one of those people that then projects it out and goes, "No, you must believe everything exactly the way that I do." Because that's where, like, no, you did a dumb. That's a bad. Don't do that.
All right, but I did that actually. Something else I've been wanting to bring up.
I was just thinking, like, yes, Tom has a point he wanted to be sure to bring up.
Of
Thank you, Charlie.
Of another way that, for we all have friends we want to help. We all have family members, especially, we want to help, and they may be reticent. So at least in the Western world, one of the acceptable meditations that people do not recognize as meditation, but is highly encouraged and no one will object, especially the highly religious, is the nightly prayer.
Mm-hmm.
They found that, they've actually studied, and they did find that the people who do the nightly prayers where they talk to God and they give their troubles to God are actually far more emotionally resilient and adaptable to their world than those who do not do this nightly ritual. And this is actually a part of meditation, which is essentially you acknowledge these thoughts, these difficulties, these problems, take your pick for term, and then you let them go and you let someone else, something else, take them on, but they no longer have to stay in your mind being processed, to give your troubles to God. And by doing that, that is another way of addressing the anxiety existence creates and your brain just naturally creates.
Yeah.
But if you find, if you're like, how do I help, how do I get my friends, especially my family, to meditate more? At least maybe talk about them, pray with me. Let's, pray and discuss and then give these problems up to others, to God, and just be silent in ourselves for a moment, knowing God is taking care of this, knowing a higher power of your choice has it.
Well, I thought you were going to, Tom, bring up the part of there is a God section of our brain, whether you want it there or not. Almost everyone has it.
People look at me weird when I bring this one up.
I know, but I think people should be made aware that there is a little section, and when they stimulate it with electricity, people have, across the board, they experience a presence in the room.
Yep.
Yes.
And almost all of them experience it as a positive thing rather than a negative thing. But some people actually do experience it as a negative thing. But almost everyone possesses, there is a little section in your brain. It's approximately in the same space for everybody. And when they electrically stimulate it, they got a helmet for this.
Yep.
that you feel this sense of something greater than yourself in the room with you, and it's called the God part of your brain. You can Google this.
Go look up God helmet.
So here's the thing. I don't care if you believe in God or not. That really does not matter to me. And it does not technically matter to you. Because no matter whether you believe in God or not, more than likely you have that God section in your brain. And what you need to do at a certain point is you're going to need to acknowledge that you're wired for this. And you're going to need to somehow acknowledge that there is something greater than you in this universe, even though you think it's silly. And I get it. Like, that's where you hear me go, well, the universe is like this. Whenever I say the universe, that is me talking about, because I am very agnostic personally. I'm like, how would I know if there really is a God? And also, would God care about me? Like, would I even register? Probably not, is my theory. But I cannot help the way my brain is wired. So I need to acknowledge this part of my brain.
And you also,
it gets wonky, y'all.
Oh,
when
yeah.
You don't. It gets really wonky in people. And therein lies the mental dysfunction. And that's the part we're trying to protect you from.
And so, yes, on a daily basis, when good things happen, also thank God. Thank the universe. Thank whatever you want to that's not you.
Make up a new name. Aunt Mabel. Whatever. Just
that
anything you got to do.
That this good coincidence happened to you. That's it.
The one big change that I would love to see happen in society, because I was asked this and had to write a paper on it recently, is I want people to realize that we will never have answers to certain ontological questions. So stop arguing about them. Like, these big questions that we have, why are we here?
Because
no one will have a firm answer to that.
Because our parents did it.
Yeah.
That's why. Because people boinked. Or they purchased one or both components and made a baby. That's it.
You know, why did the Big Bang happen? Is there a God? Is there not a God? We will not have answers that are rationally satisfactory to any of the great ontological questions that we have. We won't.
Yeah.
We just never will. And so arguing over them doesn't do anything. I can share with you my viewpoints, my experiences, which could be pure fabrications of my mind. We won't know. I won't know until we go into the great beyond and, oh, I was either right, wrong, or so that's so different than what I thought was going to happen.
Expecting.
Yeah, we won't know.
Why doesn't people talk about that was definitely not what I was expecting, sir.
And so, you know, I just really wish that we could just get over this arguing as if we have this perfect understanding of the actual ground of being, like that we actually know any of the answers to any of these questions. The great unknowing is one of the things that gives life purpose. One of my teachers always used to say, and I've adopted this my entire life, thank God life's not fair, because I don't want the things that I deserve. I don't want to get paid back for every bad thing that I put into the universe. And I don't want to have to think, did I do enough good to make it another day? I don't want all of these systems that we want to apply to the universe to actually be there, unless, of course, they're rigged in our favor. And what are the odds that that's how the universe actually works? But when we talk
only if you made up the game.
Right. So, you know, you notice I try not to quibble about whether I actually, you know, the conversation I was having earlier about this mental assent. My mental assent is not required for any of this. It's how I interact with the software in here. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're actually talking about here.
That's why we're here today. We want to help everybody with dealing with the wetware in here that you don't get a choice, you have to work with.
And if you really want to see an interesting, completely different side version of this conversation, the YouTube channel Space Time, which is put out by PBS, just did an entire episode on, is physics real or is it just data magic?
I saw that one. I was surprised, like, no, that was a good one. Like,
because this is a big question in physics, is physics real?
Are numbers real?
Are numbers real? Is math real? These are real, valid
Why
questions.
is gravity not working as a level? Why is gravity?
And so
Why is it like this? It makes no sense. And it's full of insanity. How can you have a law of physics full of insanity and inconsistency?
because certainty is our biggest enemy in life. I've often believed this because certainty is what gets you to raise armies. Certainty is what gets you to run off and do the really dumb thing that you will then regret for the rest of your life. Certainty is a problem. Learning to live in ambiguity, learning to live in this medial state of, I just don't know. And that's okay.
I would
That's
say certainty
perfectly
is a trap.
okay.
That certainty is a trap. It's not real. It will trap you. And it's definitely a waste of time and energy.
Here, you want to? Here's a discussion point I was bringing up earlier. Not quite related, but still interesting apropos of this, which is, it is far easier to befriend someone than it is to change their opinion, because their opinion is based on their assumptions of the future that will happen.
Yep.
And so if you actually want to change somebody's opinion, you first must be their friend and be part of their inner voices.
Yep.
Joseph Campbell has this wonderful thing that he says where he talks about what his explanation of love. And he says that love has two components at the beginning. One is the yearning of the gametes one for another, if you know what I mean. Like, just, woohoo. But there's also this projection that we do where I see in you all of the things that I either desire in myself or feel will complement and perfect me. Relationships start the moment that person has the audacity to show you their real face and you realize you're not the person I pretended you were. And whether or not you're okay with continuing that relationship.
It's true. You're not wrong.
You go on from there. Because this is how our brains actually function. We project so much outside of ourselves that we don't realize we're doing. And that's 90% why relationships fail is, oh, you're not my pretend boyfriend. You're not my pretend girlfriend.
Yeah, my imaginary one I have superimposed onto, in theory, a real physical being.
How dare you be real? How dare you?
Honestly, my meditative practice has actually affected that because I become more aware of who that person actually is a lot sooner than I used to. It used to take me months, if not years. And now it takes me days, if not hours, to tell the difference. So I would honestly say that my meditative practice has actually trained my brain to stop seeing my imagination world and to instead see the shared reality we all are here in the same theater sharing. Please,
Sherry, I see you doing violence. So here, I'm just
Why
going to say,
are
not everything about the transcendental aesthetic is utter bunk, but to know the good is not to do the good, and that's where all of his philosophy gets wrong.
Okay, anyway, I'm okay. I'm fine. I don't want to talk about old European Jews right now. Anyway.
We can discuss the transcendental aesthetic later if you want. Like,
yes.
I am totally down for that.
Well, I play Don't Starve together. You're fine, Sherry. You're absolutely fine. We are teasing. It is okay.
I just need a couple of tentacles to spear things with, okay?
If all of the things that we've been talking about aren't working for you, or if you have trouble with them, I highly recommend go get yourself a cheap drum. Go get yourself a wooden spoon and a pan.
You know what works well?
Just make
oatmeal
a
container. An empty oatmeal container and a spoon, y'all. One of the big serving spoons. Y'all gonna never. You go thank me for this later, okay? An oatmeal container or something, porridge container, whatever, in your part of the world, and a big old serving spoon of any kind. Y'all thank me later. Okay, go on, Charlie.
Because one of the things that I have noticed when working with people over the years, and just learning to keep a rhythm.
The white
that's
people
meditation.
Challenge.
Shut up.
Yeah. But that's meditation. That's what you're doing.
Like, how dumb. You're not supposed to say the quiet part loud.
And by the way, if you really want to clear your mind, you want to try to hit at about somewhere between 140 and 240 beats per minute, because that has actually been shown to change your brain waves and bring you into a calm state. It takes some practice, it takes some getting there, but try it. Try everything. Don't give up. Don't think, again, that sitting in lotus position, being quiet, is the way to get there. Most of my meditation, and I don't mind because my neighbors are kind of trash people, is me sitting out on my deck with one of my drums, just sitting there for an hour, clearing my mind, while they have to deal with the sound of me doing this.
Oh my God, I am so ready to write a song now. Okay.
But try everything. Don't give up, because there is something out there that will help you.
Absolutely. That is something I definitely did not hear in the 90s and even the early to mid 2000s at all. Really, it wasn't until the 2010s that I started hearing of, like, there's so many different ways to meditate. And there's so many different absolutely valid meditative practices. And it's just, there's so much diversity among humans that it's really just about finding what works for you. The first one I ever stumbled across that I did not know was meditation was how I bake. It wasn't the only one. Eventually I did find that, as much as I hate walking, the way I meditatively walk, which is I'm trying to distract myself from how much I hate walking by looking at everything, is in fact a meditative practice, because I'm trying very much to distract myself from the fact that gravity is not my friend, and this body lumbers. The joints scream. But thankfully, in many of my walks, there are turtles and there are other things to look at, and there's flowers, and those things are lovely. And for a moment, they give me a little break from the constant attention of my body going, gravity is not our friend. Let's go back in the house. It is also super hot and humid. Let's go. And I'm like, but they say I need this for health. Walking. So there are so many different ways to meditate, and I would like to encourage everyone to find multiple ways so that you have an arsenal in your coping tool set, let alone coping shed. Because again, if you are having an emotional reaction and you don't like your emotional reaction, you are being manipulated. Okay? If you don't like your emotional reaction, you're not happy, you're angry or sad or scared or whatever, then you're being manipulated. And meditation, various meditative practices, can give you tools to change your thought stance so that you can then be happy with the way you're thinking.
I was actually just thinking of another one that, since Anne was here earlier, reminded me of I know a lot of musicians do that, playing scales or whatever is their favorite song, and the same goes for singing it, because it takes a while for my voice to warm up to talk in the morning. I am close to nonverbal for the first hour or two. I am awake. And the quickest way for me to solve that is to literally get my vocal cords vibrating. And what most people do not know, because this is only in the car, is I sing like 2 or 3 songs I picked up from a CD during, that came out of that conference in New York in the early 90s that Glory went to, because it is very beautiful choral music. And I just sing 2 or 3 of those songs because they're relatively slow and Baroque. And
good old Baroque, how to warm up the larynx. Oh, God bless Baroque for existing to help warm up at least all of us barrel-chested folks.
And it does make it easier for me to talk whenever I get wherever I'm going. But like, that is another type of meditation I know plenty of people who do, both because I need to perform, but also for I need to clear my mind and just be prepared for whatever happens when I get to the next step.
So the secret of mantras is that the mantra has no power. Any good teacher will
Clearly.
tell you this. The point of the mantra is to imbue it with power. You're making it into a magic word. Because you're entering a specific mental state while reciting it, you're giving this word the power to trigger that mental state when you say it. And I ended up doing this with Everything's All Right from Jesus Christ Superstar, which is one of my biggest go-to relaxation songs because my sweet, sweet doggy is mortified of thunder. And to try to calm her down, I noticed that she would get calm whenever I talked to her. So I had to find a way to keep making the mouth sounds. And the most logical thing while holding a shaking, crying animal was just try not to be worried, because the words are all like, everything's all right. And I did this so much that I noticed, like, even when I'm not paying attention, when I start getting anxious, I'll start humming everything's all right now. Because I've made this into a trigger for me. It's not that the song is magic. It's that I have worked so long and hard to have this sense of calm and peace whenever I sing this song that it just it comes out of my mouth without me even thinking about it when I'm in stress, and it causes me to relax because I have given it the power and authority to do that. I have imbued it with that mental energy through repeated practice of using it. And that's what you're looking for when you're doing this, that you're imbuing these things with all of this mindfulness, this calmness, this peace, this love, this kindness, this whatever you're putting into it, this focus, so that when you need to pull it out of that toolbox, bam, it can snap you into that place. And notice when you actually do mantra meditation, when you do the, Om Rapachana Dahi, which is the chant from Manjushri, you're doing a focus meditation. He is the bodhisattva of discriminating wisdom, after all. He cuts through the BS to get right to the truth. So you do a focus meditation while chanting Om Rapachana Dahi over and over and over again, so that when you need to focus, you can say this really short sentence, Om Rapachana Dahi, and suddenly your focus comes in. It clicks in. It's not that one causes the other. You're actually imbuing it. You're building it. And that's the real power of meditation. And it's something that people don't talk about enough.
Yes, it is not the words, it is the power you grant them. And it can be anything. I mean, I don't talk about it much for many reasons, but as a response growing up to the great question of if time travel existed and I sent someone else back to tell me something or communicate something, how would I know this person was valid? And of course, growing up in the 90s, the answer is passwords, passcodes, passphrases. So I have an unspoken passphrase that's just for me to communicate this that I've never told anyone else. But because I've had it for so long, and because, to be honest, I still think it's kind of silly and fun, it also, though, has become a trigger phrase in my mind of this is something I need to accept and know is true when I'm trying to talk to my subconscious. Is I can actually use this because I've just held this thought for so many decades that this phrase communicates this to me, that I can use it on myself. I just think about that, and then here's what I need to accept. Here's what I need to do. Here are the things I need to change, and I use it that way.
Neither Brian
Go on.
Yeah, neither Brian nor I are Buddhist, but for reasons, we developed a practice that when we need to just let go and let God, we will just sing the Tara mantra with each other. It's a beautiful little song. It's a beautiful little ditty. It goes in a round, and once you get started, it's really hard to stop because it starts and stops on offbeats, so you want to keep going. And it's just this thing that we do when something bad is going on and we just need, there's nothing we can do. There's absolutely nothing we can do. We will just start singing this song. And it's just there. It's this thing that we have that gives us the strength to get through, to get to the other side, to just let go and realize I can't do anything right now. I just can't. There's nothing for me to do. All I can do is sit here. So I'm going to sing to Tara, and hopefully maybe she can do something or not. I don't know. But I can sit here and sing. That's a thing that I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like Carrie's little... I don't know what started it, but every morning before we leave for daycare or whatever we're doing, I get Anna to say with me, I am strong, I am smart, I am beautiful, I am awesome. I guess in its way, my way of helping her learn how far she's come.
Yep.
But it's not entirely the words even in that, it's the emotions behind them that you're trying to convey to her and to yourself.
There's an entire practice in Tibetan Buddhism called Lojong, which so many translate into English as slogan meditation, where you literally, it's the power of positive thinking. You find a thing that you need to believe, and you just say it to yourself over and over and over again. If you have problems thinking you're ugly, you just sit there and say, I'm beautiful, I am beautiful, I am beautiful, I am beautiful. Or if you're my teacher and you want to make me squirm in just that way that breaks my psyche open, you make me sing, I feel pretty, over and over and over again to get to the other side.
Look, it is not any better than that scene in that movie. When Jamila was actually the first time I'd heard that song, but I have felt that way ever since, of anyone who's of like, you're going to feel awkward. This may be the most awkward song in the world for anyone to sing. But there is a certain truth and power in it of doing it, of getting to the end and having to act that you believe it.
I was introduced to it as a little girl, that little girl. And I just believed it. So I guess I cannot relate to you going, I feel silly singing it. Like, no, I feel valid singing this. Yes, I pity any girl who isn't me tonight. Like, like, I was a very gullible child.
But I feel like half of what we're here today to do is to validate forms of meditation and get people to expand their understanding. Like when you bring up Lojong with people, it often helps to call it by its Tibetan name, to call it Lojong meditation, because when you say, do your daily affirmations, they sit back and go, well, that's silly. Oh, no. But you're infected like so many Western minds are with this weird Orientalism that if it comes from Tibet, it must be magic. So do your Lojong. And it's a terrible thing, but it does work. Because it's the reason it's been in Tibetan meditation for about 1,000 years. Because telling yourself something that you need to hear does help.
Mm-hmm.
It's why when we're struggling with something, we find ourselves just naturally chanting, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can make it, I can make it, I can make it. Because we know in our heart of hearts that sometimes we have to give ourselves that pep talk.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, a lot of my pep talks are probably songs. Tom is aware of some of them. There is a commercial from Starbucks from the mid-2000s. And I believe it goes, Roy, 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 Roy. Roy, Roy, Roy. Roy's the man. And it goes on. Okay, do look it up if you've never heard this song. But that is, okay, I also used to drink these double shots, espresso. That is how I got through college. It was...
Double shots.
Yes, double shot espressos. Okay. And they were like in a can. And every time I drink it, it'd be like, Roy's the man. And then you make up your own words to it that you need, whatever you need. But yeah, getting ready to go to school, to college every day, which really felt awkward and uncomfortable. And also, where am I going to find parking? There's, at my university at the time, I think there was 3,000 parking spots and 15,000 people. Figure out this, Hunger Games every dang morning. And yeah, it was wild. So that was how I got myself psyched up to like, yeah, I want to go out to this place that is always telling me I'm not good enough, my university, and go to class that I cannot afford and eventually get a degree that I barely want because, da da da. So, yeah, there's all these songs. There's the song that my mother used to sing to me to wake me up every single day because I was such a dead sleeper. I just slept so heavily, and where she's literally rolling my body like you would a big piece of dough, and it goes, "Good morning, morning glory, kissed and caressed by the dew. Beautiful morning glory, good morning, morning to you." And then my parents would scream, "Morning glory." I'm not going to scream that because some of y'all are using headphones. And if that didn't work, they'd do it again. Only they would roll more vigorously to wake the dough child up. But again, if I am just not waking up, I will sing that to myself, whether in my head or out loud. It does help trigger. It is a sort of affirmation. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, keep swimming. And by the way, I have done that one too. When it is like having to walk stairs when I've got a sprained ankle and no cane or anything. And it's like, you can do this, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And I'm doing it out of breath. You can barely tell it's a song. It sounds like I'm deranged. It doesn't matter. It works.
Because of our abiding love for the Sister Act movies, when one of us needs to get up and the other one doesn't want to, the other one will just start chanting, "Out of bed, you lazy head. Out of bed, you lazy head.
Yeah.
Out of bed, you lazy head."
Yes.
And it still makes us giggle and wake up and not an angry, like, "Why are you doing this to me?"
Exactly. So, like, there are all sorts of little triggers that help cue our brain. This is how to feel right now, and we can trigger ourselves.
Yep.
So, but when we are triggering ourselves to control how we feel and our thoughts in that moment, that is part of the meditative practice, because you have to make the trigger, install the trigger in the wetware, and then utilize the trigger, because if you don't utilize it every once in a while, it eventually loses its ability to trigger. That is all part of it, about being in control of your own brain. So, like, when people think about, when they hear, oh, meditation helps you with mental self-discipline, they're thinking, a lot of people are thinking, oh, that self-discipline, that means like turning down that piece of cheesecake. No, please, you know what? Don't turn down the cheesecake unless you're lactose intolerant. Don't turn it down. Enjoy it. Enjoy that feeling of joy and ecstasy and how happy your tummy will feel, provided you're not lactose intolerant.
I'll say, it's all right. And will I actually enjoy this cheesecake, or am I taking it out of guilt or anger or something?
Or mad at my mother who told me I couldn't have dairy because I'm lactose intolerant and it would give me the barking spiders. So now, take that, barking spiders, mom.
Do I want to ever eat it for that reason? No. All right.
Unless you do want to eat it, in which case, enjoy, making your mother roll in her grave and the barking spiders that will therefore ensue.
Does it look like something I'll enjoy and I'll be happy with every bite? Okay, then let me grab it.
Right. But do the things that speak to you and how you want your mental state to be. But mental self-discipline is about you being in control of your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, rather than you being controlled and triggered by a world that does not care whether you live or die. They only want to profit off of you until you stop making them profit. There's the problem, and this is why we are here today. Charlie took time out of their day off to join us on this ridiculous thing we call a live stream. Because they believe this so much, and we believe this so much. Tom made this pitch, and I'm like, okay, let's put it on the list. And this is the first episode of the season of, we want you all to have that. And maybe you do have it, but maybe you're here or you're watching later to be reminded of your own power. Because this is your power, and they can't take that away from you. No.
This is
they can try to. They can tell you have to spend money on this program or that program to learn how to properly blah, 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 blah. And all of it is BS, and none of it is true, because you don't need anything outside of yourself to learn how to do this or to practice this and to practice this every day and to still do it till the day you cease to exist. You're the one in control of this, and you don't need to ever spend a penny or listen to anyone else to do it. You probably already have been doing it. We're just here to validate you.
The one and only caveat that I have for that is if you're doing visualization meditations, you can, if you are not careful and skilled, get yourself into a very disassociative state. So find other people that practice similar things and talk to them. Trust me, once you find them, they won't shut up about it. We like talking about these things. It's the nature of the beast, right? But you don't have to pay somebody, but it is very good to have somebody that can handhold, because one of the most interesting things that you find in all of the traditions of meditation is at some point in the book, there's a chapter of, so you started having visions. And that's because you got yourself to a place where your brain is like, wait a minute, I have clarity. Let me tell you something. They're called epiphanies. They're amazing. They're wonderful. They're magical. Don't trust them 100% of the time.
The brain sometimes lies.
Yes, the brain sometimes lies.
It's all high on good feeling hormones, and it's like, this is a great idea, and it's like, but is it? Is it actually? How will your credit card company feel about it, and your life partner? How will they feel?
And it's one of the things that I always feel like you find when you're in a valid practicing community is at some point they will have the lecture of, so your brain is giving you things that you think are visions now. We need to talk. Because you can see it when people are not skilled in these things and they start having these numinous experiences and then go, I'm hearing from fill in the blank, and they think everything is 100% gospel true. Well, okay, this is where discernment comes in. Discernment is very important because you may have actually figured out something that you needed to figure out. I've come up with entire plots of books through those wonderful moments of clarity where my brain goes, oh, wait a minute, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, shut up, I need to write this down real quick. Go slower. So sometimes it can be helpful, but a lot of the times it's like, yeah, that would be wonderful. I don't have $5 million to do that. Or, oh, that's how I break a leg. No. Yes, that does sound like fun, but no. So don't be aware that this is a thing that can and often does happen, to the point where almost every serious meditation manual has that chapter in there. Yeah.
Again, you don't exercise. Have to pay. Having a community can be very helpful, just to like bounce ideas off of, or hey, so I had a vision and this is what. Does that sound weird to you too, or is it just me? Or does it sound wonderful to you?
Because in the Dark Night of the Soul, St. John of the Cross has this wonderful line where he says, and you will get to a place where you are free and your spirit flies and you behold the face of God and know in your heart that's not it. You saw nothing. Let it go. And this is like literally one of the great saints of the Catholic Church who's teaching you, here's how to meditate, here's how to do all of these great lofty spiritual things. And the advice is uniform. Yes, you may get some insight. And if you do get insight, glean whatever insight you can from wherever your psyche wants to pull it from. But never think that you have plugged into the matrix to the point where you have found the answer. Anytime you start putting definite articles onto the word truth, you have fallen off the path. You have.
I mean, I hate to make this reference, I really do, but they did handle this pretty well in Rick and Morty with Gary, or Jerry rather. In I forget, some simulation or something, but of the yeah, we've all seen the face of God at that point. It doesn't mean anything. Oh, yours was a brown cow. Interesting, a little different, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just an experience you all have because you went through this situation and you had this brain chemistry happen.
Yeah.
Because that's where a lot of people can really go wrong, and it is a thing that can happen. and this is one of the reasons Buddhism especially has extremely codified all this. Earlier, when you heard me talk about the jhanas, the states of meditative absorption, having a vision is somewhere in the middle. You're almost there to complete ego death. Like, ego death is actually a couple stages past this. This is more than likely your ego showing up going, worship me! Stop trying to kill me. Just worship me. And that's really, yeah, more 9 times out of 10. That's what happened, is your ego got a little life supporty and freaked out and went, no, you need me. Worship me, dang it. Worship me. I am your God now. That's not healthy for anyone. And if you don't believe me, look at all the self-proclaimed prophets in the world today and tell me how much their God looks like them.
Kind of fascinating, like, mirror into narcissism. Yeah. Well, we are getting to that time. Does anyone have final thoughts?
Find a pot and bang on it. Like, do whatever it takes to get yourself to a place of calm. I don't like taking grand statements and like resting my entire life on them. But when Buddhists say things like our natural state is joy, it is. When you let go, when you just rest into this place, you find this sense of peace and joy that's just there. You got distracted from it. It is a well that you can dip into at any point. It really is there. It can be hard to see sometimes, and sometimes the water gets all stirred up and looks a little muddy. But you just got to sit and work your way through it and let all that mud settle back out. It really is there. So don't.
That is oddly correct, Kat. And I don't
I
know.
know,
if I
it
feel
made me
comfortable.
giggle because I was just like, I heard Kat's voice in my head saying it. Only
I feel like that.
not MF. She said the word in my head.
I
Which
feel
I'm
like that actually needs to be more of a shirt.
Yes.
Best meditation. Yeet yeet, MF.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk more about stuff like this, on my main YouTube channel, the Charlie Dorset one, I'm going to be doing more art as meditation videos soon. I have them planned out. I just need the energy to record them. Where we're going to be talking about how to apply this to writing. I already do have up one on an active imagination technique that I do for my writing that helps me get into a story and keep the story going. And that has been really popular lately. And I haven't talked about it in a long time. So if you're interested, check that out. I also do a spirituality and meditation channel that right now is still in the stage of explaining the metaphors and vocabulary that I'm going to be using going forward so that we're on the same, using the same language. But that's Creations Paths on YouTube. And you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram as that as well. I'm going to be posting a lot more over there as well. And I've got a lot of meditations planned for that and a lot of meditation classes and stuff for that will all be the free, because I don't often trust people that charge for meditation classes.
Same. I'm kind of suspicious of people who charge for that. Tom, final thoughts?
Probably the two, at least in my form of neurodivergence. What's the line? Personal results may vary.
Yes.
Yes, your mileage may vary.
Mileage may vary. That's it. For me, the two most important forms of meditation for my mind are the polar opposites, which is to really figure out how to silence my mind, which has been surprisingly effective. Glory helped, yes, but I'm sorry, Pima Children definitely did the best for the getting through to me. I highly recommend her retreats and her talks and stuff.
I love Pima Children.
They are very relatable.
I originally found her by accidentally ordering the wrong book. And I think her book was Blessings from the Fall.
Yeah.
And I was trying to order it from a different author, like on this website of used books. But that was how I actually got Pima Chodron originally, and was like, oh, whoa, this is helping me. But yes, I ordered the wrong book, and it was Pima Chodron's book.
And, really all her stuff, but especially her talks where she actually discusses things I do find just very relatable when you're first trying to, especially from a Western perspective, learn how to use the tools in this gymnasium that is your mind, because it's just not a lot of those experiences growing up.
I was going to say she has some talks on YouTube as well that you can get
that's
into.
right. She has finally put them on. Yeah, go find those. And the other one is learning how to make sounds you like. Whether it's just saying the same word or phrase over and over, whether it's banging a drum, saying
with
booger,
your wooden cooking spoon,
saying booger
oh
your
God,
dog, or just harmonizing with yourself, at least that my family does, and just continually making sounds. For some reason I do find is very helpful, at least in our family, to help us heal when we are not doing well. Don't know why. May have something to do with our fundamental frequencies are in the same range as cats purring. But I do find those two extremes are probably the meditations that have helped me most. If you're watching this all the way through, you may also find these useful.
excellent.
You got anything, Laura?
I got nothing. I've said my piece. I have given you all I have in this world of knowledge about meditation. This is it. It may not be much, but it worked for me, and I'm willing to bet if you're watching this, you're open to some alternative ideas like the ones we pitched today. Possibly just because you're a more open, flexible mind, or because a lot of crap hasn't worked for you yet. So you're open because everybody's saying you should totally do this thing, and you're like running out of options. Either way, give it a try. But also, thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody watching. Thanks to our panelists. Of course, this is always made better with our panelists. I love to have folks on. I honestly am too tired and exhausted and feeling like crap to go hunt people down and ask 100 times to get one yes. So if y'all are interested in joining us, please let me know. We'd love to have you on.
It's a fun place to be.
Aw, thank you. I love your water too, Charlie. And let's see. Okay, next Monday. By the way, this entire season is Tom's pitch. For sibling reasons. So Monday, June 13th, we shall be talking about. Oh, let me make it big. Let me remove final thoughts there. Make things big. Eventually, I'll learn how to run this thing. Supplements. What you didn't know, you needed to know. Tom, where's your pitch on this one?
So as we've seen, even the FDA is finally getting in on this. If you're neurodivergent, there's also a chance that your body does not operate quite the same as everyone else's. And how to figure out and experiment and find what nutrients you may need more than the average person. There are actually a lot of supplements we know from research do help, but not everyone. It's just if you see this situation yourself, this may help.
Or if you take certain medications.
Or especially if you take certain medications.
We're definitely going to talk about the book Drug Muggers, written by a pharmacist. This information is now more publicly known than when I originally saw this book. I saw it actually as an interlibrary loan request. And then I was like, oh, I need to buy my own copy. So we will bring out our copy for Monday's episode and and really talk about if anybody has medications they want to ask about.
Like, here's some irony. More than half of drug medications you will be prescribed if you are at risk for a heart attack may take away essential nutrients of your body and increase your chances of having a heart attack.
Yeah.
How's that for irony?
So, yeah. We're going to talk about...
Seriously. It was part of what inspired her writing this book.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had Bender going through my... no, was it Bender or was it the Robot Devil? I can't remember. That's what I call irony. Like, from the opera episode. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that episode. So, yeah, we're gonna, yes, it seems like a bad idea is what it seems like to me. It seems like a real bad idea.
Welcome to Western Doctrine.
Like, well, if you know that this drug halts your body's production of ubiquinol, also known as CoQ10, why don't you include it in the pill? So that you don't have heart dysrhythmia, restless legs, or other issues, since ubiquinol is found and needed in nearly every cell in the human body? I mean, these are great questions. There is no official answer to. So that's what we're going to talk about. Why? Because it's the Awkward Sibling Hour. And Tom wants to give y'all life lessons that we've learned so you don't have to earn them the hard way by living them and nearly dying for lack of the knowledge.
That's right. We're going to answer questions you didn't know that you wanted to ask, and now you want to know the answer to. And that's what we're here for. The world is even crazier than you ever imagine it. There's the real secret. You need to accept, and then and then you can be, a better adult at adulting.
Yeah, I really came to understand I'm a terrible fiction writer because I can never outdo the real world. Turns out I'm terrible at it.
That's why I've just embraced camp.
I don't have the audacity to imagine a world that's so far skewed into dysfunction and yet still working. Like, I don't have the vision. And yet the real world shows me that I am I'm an old hack at this. Like, I am not creative enough. But oh well, here's the world we live in. So at least, here's some more things to put in your tool belt to help you cope.
All right. And as usual, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We, read them all. We will answer as we can. Or
if you have any comments, put them in the comments.
And, if you have any
like
immediate...
a little thumb up or something, but, we saw it. We agreed.
If you have any immediate questions, you can always come hang out with us after the show on our Discord. Let us know if you don't. We will work out and get you a link sent.
Oh, no, I put the link. I put the link in the description. It's under my info. It says Discord invite.
All right, and that's good for about 2 or 3 weeks once it's made. I mean,
in theory, I told it to not expire, but I'm not good at this, so...
But let us know. You can find us there.
I'm not claiming to be good at what I do. I have no idea. I'm a hack. So anyhow, yes. So thank you all. We shall wave you off into the sunset until next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.